I'm going to ask Commissioner Thomas if he will lead us in the invocation and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone please stand.
Please join me. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you. Thank you for this day. We just call on you and acknowledge you as our Lord and Savior. We just ask you to be present with us tonight. Just give us your grace, give us your mercy. Just be on our hearts and guide us. Guide every word, our actions, and step that we take here tonight. We just ask your blessings on the people that have come to this meeting tonight and those that are watching at home and for our county. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this time I'm going to ask if there's any additions or changes to the agenda.
I have some. I would like to add under awards and presentations a presentation from the Capital City Youth Services. I would like to pull for discussion tab 12 on the consent agenda. And under my agenda item, I would like to add Capital City Youth Services. You guys have the package. I just want to formally add that to the agenda.
Okay. Under my item, I'm adding on, and each of you have a copy. I'm adding on an agenda, a commissioner agenda item for a letter of support.
Also, Chairman, I'll be tabling item number 9 on the consent agenda, as well as I have an add-on item to put under general business.
So we're going to table item number 9?
Yes.
And we had to add on item under general business?
Under general business, yes.
What is it?
That add-on item is approval for me to negotiate with the contractor to finish up the the Surf Road and BoCC Pelt Road projects.
The add-on item that I'm adding is the Opportunity Florida letter of support that we'll be talking about. Is there any other additions or changes to the agenda?
Yes.
Commissioner Gassler?
Yes, I'd like to add one item to the awards and presentation.
Okay.
Dealing with the library director, Scott Joyner. I'd like to pull items of the consent agenda 1, 4, 7, and 10.
Motion to approve the agenda is modified. Second.
We have a motion made and second to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next, we're going to have our citizens to be heard section for the first part of the meeting. Paige, do we have any citizens to speak? Mr. Cushman, were you wanting to go in the first or second? First, okay. Our first citizens to speak is Mr. Eugene Watkins.
Eugene Watkins, Crawfordville, Florida. I just want to speak a little bit about how we're spending our money on improvements in our transportation system. The intersection that we've been talking about improving down at the high school, I think we're going the wrong direction there. That I think we're going to make that more unsafe. I'd rather see that kind of money spent on the north of Crawfordville. You got roads north of Crawfordville that are not lined up. A good example is Wooden Lake Road and East Ivan Road. Those two roads are probably about a quarter mile offset from each other. What I understand from DOT is that either those of us coming out of Wooden Lake Road will only be able to make a right, and it just seems ridiculous because we're going to have to make a right, go down somewhere, turn around, and then go north. So if you commissioners could, put your weight and looking into those kind of things where we have roads that are not lined up and see what we can do about that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Our next citizen is Bill Anderson.
Bill Anderson, 2481 Surf Road. And as a matter of disclosure, I'm a candidate for County Commission in District 4. I'd like to call your attention to the minutes, and particularly the minutes as they relate to the intersection realignment of 3/19/98. I don't believe the resolution as reflected in the minutes accurately reflects what happened that night, and it has implications to your item 10, I think, the letter that you're going to write, FDOT. I think there's two discrepancies in the minutes in relation to that. One, Commissioner Merritt, I'm sure will remember, he mentioned geometric design numerous times as part of that. Your minutes only reflect design. The other thing, Commissioner Merritt started off the discussion that night saying that he had been contacted by numerous citizens with concern over the intersection and also a lack of support. That lack of support then got part of the resolution. I've listened to the audio tape and the videotape several times, and I think if you'll look at it, you'll see that geometric design is used 3 or 4 times in the resolution, and also the resolution speaks to public concern and lack of support. The words lack of support and geometric are missing from the minutes, and that's going to be pertinent when you consider item 10. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Michael Morgan.
Mike Morgan, 3140 Coastal Highway. First thing I want to thank you guys for agreeing to write the letter and taking the time to listen to me last meeting. I want to voice my opposition to the intersection again, but I just want to point out that I do think they should spend the money down there. I think that they've got 2 issues they need to look at, not just the school traffic there. And I also want to remind everybody that doesn't know that the meeting is tomorrow night at the Methodist Church in Crawfordville at between 5:30 and 6:30. And the way these meetings go, you have to. It's not a public meeting that I've ever seen. It's just a go see what they're going to do type meeting. So I encourage everybody to go if they haven't been to one already or been in on any of the planning for what they're going to be talking about. And I'd also like to just challenge anybody that thinks that the plan they've got for the intersection down there right now, if they think it's safe, they need to go to the meeting and look at it and make up their own mind.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Steve Cushman.
Steve Cushman, Panacea. And I guess for disclosure, I'll go ahead and tell everybody I'm running for County Commission District 4 too. Lately, there's been a lot of conversation going on around the county about false statements and timelines and things that just don't add up. So I've been spending some time over at Buddy's office, the supervisor of elections, and today I walked in there for the second time and I asked for a copy of the petition for the wetlands as what's going on the ballot in November. He didn't have one. I signed this petition on September 21st of 2013 at the Coastal Cleanup for Sue Damon. And that petition reads, ballot title, ensure local control and protection of Wakulla County wetlands. Ballot summary says ensure local control and protection of Wakulla County's wetlands by adopting County Ordinance 10-16 as constituted on July 19, 2013. This ordinance may only be modified or repealed by a voter referendum on unanimous vote of all 5 Wakulla County Commissioners. Obviously, we didn't get that vote. Obviously, a group of individuals worked very hard to attain 6,000 signatures on a petition worded just like this one. Exactly like this one that was done by the resident at 51 Royster Drive. And I challenge anyone in this building, especially our county attorney, to bring me the petition that's going on the November ballot with signatures from 6,000 county residents in this county, because it doesn't exist. You'll get this petition, but not the petition that's going in November, and because I signed that, I feel like I have a right to vote on that petition. So I would encourage those petitions to be found, and I would encourage you guys, since y'all voted on it, to reconsider the vote and actually put the petition on the ballot that was signed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, those are all of our citizens to be heard that we have. got one last citizen to be heard. Dana Peck. Were you wanting to speak at the first one or the second one?
I'm going to speak at this one. That's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf
I would
Road.
like to ask you in the future just to try to have the card filled out earlier.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I
Thank
will.
you. Yes, ma'am.
Promise to do that. I'll make this real short, too.
Okay.
Just for the record, your previous speaker said because he signed the petition in September that he felt he had a right to complain. He wasn't registered to vote then. Please check the records.
Okay. Next, we're going to move into our public hearing items. We don't have any public hearing items on the agenda tonight, so we're going to go into our awards and our presentation. Our first presentation is going to be by Cherie Keeler. She's going to be given a 2015 Legislative Priorities. Cherie is our Intergovernmental Affairs Director.
Again, my name is Cherie Keeler, Wakulla County Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, Procurement, and Grants. My title keeps getting longer. And this evening, I wanted to say that I think we had a successful 2014 legislative session. As everybody knows, the legislature and governor funded two very important projects for our county: Shell Point boat ramp facility at $735,000 and a municipal dock in St. Mark's for $1 million. At the July 14th board meeting, I'm going to come back and provide you with a comprehensive summary of all the legislation that was passed and what impact, if any, it has to our county. So if there's any specific bills that you're interested in, please let me know. And yes, it is time for the 2015 legislative session preliminary work to get started. I know it just ended, but it's like you get a short break and then it's like back at it again. The state agencies will begin putting together their packages in August, and so it's very important that we go ahead and start thinking about our priorities. Legislative committee meetings can begin as early as September, and some of our legislators have already reached out to some of our constituents, I understand, and to ask for information on their packages, and I hope we're next. So the first day of session is March 3rd, 2015, and it'll last for 60 days. And our strategy last year, I thought, was excellent, that you approved, that had multiple projects that were based on our 2012 adopted infrastructure plan and some other things that had come up during the year. And it gave us the flexibility to pursue the legislative funding where it became available, as opposed to having one or two priorities and then if something came up, we couldn't move with agility the way we were able to do this last year. So I'm going to be developing another legislative agenda item to bring back hopefully July 14th, which is the next meeting, for all of you to review and hopefully approve. And so I wanted to give you a heads up, you know, where I was in that process. So if there are any issues that you would like for me to look at for the agenda item or any questions you have about the process, please let me know, and I'll be happy to get it done.
I did reached out to Chris Doolin about, at some point in the future, having the legislature change our MSBU process so we can include law enforcement if we wanted to. So,
Okay.
I don't know where that's going, but that would be a way to just have a flat rate for that. But he's handling that, I guess, but I thought I should at least tell you that I did reach out to him.
Okay, thank you. And I'll follow up with David and Chris.
Okay, Cherie, you're also on there for the adopted infrastructure plan.
And I
as well.
promise to keep this one just as brief. In November 2012, the board approved our 2012 adopted infrastructure plan, and it's primarily a compilation of our needed or desired infrastructure improvements to county-owned property, facilities, sewer systems, highways, and a couple of other projects. We've also incorporated it into our capital improvement plan, which has been very valuable in the pursuit of grants, because many grants require that a project be in your capital improvement plan. So we've addressed that problem. The adopted infrastructure plan is a great tool because it gives us, it's almost like a marketing strategy that we can use staff in pursuit of funding and legislative priorities. So and it has nice pictures, and when we meet with legislators or citizens or grantee agencies, it's very nice to have that and say, yes, the board's approved it with consistent information, and which is very, very key. It's consistent, reliable information. And over the last 18 months, this county has been very successful in achieving a lot of the goals that were set forth in the 2012 adopted infrastructure plan. And I think the reason why is because we did have a plan. So it gave us a roadway, a map to where we needed to be. And so talking with David, what we're going to do is we're going to update the plan, and we're going to show you where our successes were and how we achieved those successes. And we're also going to be meeting with our staff at the office to come up with changes and amendments that need to be made to that plan so that we can bring an agenda item back and recommendations at a future board meeting. So if you don't mind taking out your adopted infrastructure plan and dusting it off and going through it to see what recommendations you might have for future changes, so that when we bring it back, we'll have a lot of that already incorporated. Okay?
Politicians aren't the sharpest tools in the shed, so having pictures probably helps a lot.
Well, y'all approved those
There's pictures.
pictures.
Remember, that's pretty
Yeah,
good.
that's why I said that's why it was
That's a
so
good
good I had
investment.
pictures, because politicians should
Well, I will
understand
tell
it.
you, I enjoyed spending a weekend out on the road or going around Wakulla snapping pictures, so I look forward to doing that again.
Basically, in our plan that we're going to, I came on the board 4 years ago, and I was needing Wakulla Gardens, just a circle paved. That's got to be, we got to put that high on the list. And then the little ladies down in Panacea who ride the little three-wheelers, they ride them out on 98. It's a wonder the FWC doesn't give them tickets, because if we don't get some sidewalks down there, we're going to lose a little old lady. I'm going to lose a voter.
I think
Well-
that's been funded, hasn't it?
We actually put in for it's called a Transportation Alternative Program Grant for a sidewalk along US 98 in Panacea, in the Panacea community, as well as 2 other sidewalks that would be Otter Lake Creek Road. I understand there's like a nursing home, and then a sidewalk from US 98 down to Woolley Park. My understanding, and I don't take this to the bank because, understandings can change daily, but that the US 98 sidewalk has a very good chance of being funded.
It's
Yeah,
been
we gotta
addressed
get-
in the Community Traffic Safety Team
Yeah.
also, and it's been addressed on CRTPA also, I think.
We just absolutely have to get a sidewalk to the post office from Otter Lake Road on 98.
Right, and like I say, hopefully we will know by July or August where in the CRPTA process it's going to be. And also, we have word that 3 of our water projects, with the help of a lot of people working towards, DEP and some of our consultants working, we were able to, DEP has requested information, and David can give you more information on Wakulla Gardens and Magnolia Gardens for potentially being funded out of a $25 million appropriation in this year's budget. The Northwest Florida Water Management District has made those, I understand, 2 priorities for their district.
Sewer?
Sewer.
Or you said
There's
water
There's
projects.
4 projects statewide. We have the top 2 projects. And what this will allow us to do is not only sewer Wakulla Gardens in the future, as well as Magnolia, but expand our sewer system north up Shadeville, up
Spring Creek.
Spring Creek.
Is that in the Water Management District top, or the state top?
Out of all the water managers, there's 4 projects, and we're the top 2.
And do those get funded very often? I mean, is there something we
Yeah,
can
the
really
money's
think about?
sitting there. The money's sitting there. So it looks like we feel very good that we'll get fully funded for both our projects.
The way this process
Saying we didn't
works...
No
borrow the money.
guarantees, no
Did they even borrow
guarantees.
that money 3 or 4 years ago?
No guarantees, that's right.
Well, the way the process works, there's a $25 million appropriation in DEP's budget, and they call it water projects, even though it's for sewer, because it's anything that offers water protection, spring shed, basins. And what happens is the way the proviso is on the budget, each water management district throughout the state had to pull together their priority projects. And each water management district submitted their projects to DEP. DEP then went through them, and then they're putting them in a plan that will go to the governor, and I believe it's the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House, and then it will go to a Legislative Budget Commission meeting. So there's probably a good 3 to 4 months that we're going to have to wait to find out. But again, our understanding is that for the Northwest Florida Water Management District, our two are the top priorities for that region. So that means they have a very good chance of being funded, and especially because of the success with the USDA grant and loan. So it was a really good package.
What about that, one time we had a plan to get a grant to inspect and repair septic tanks within the Springs Basin. Is that still alive?
That actually, the one, no, not that one, the Panacea manholes. I'm waiting on
That's
the
the
state.
infiltration.
That one we keep in our package, and it had a some legs, but it kind of got dropped out this year.
One about the septic tank
But
inspection.
we'll keep putting that one. The good thing about what we've done is you know, the wheels of government, especially state government and county, slow enough, and I apologize to everybody out there. But the state government, it just takes forever, and you got to load the till, and that's what we've done. We're loading that till, and so as now we hopefully will get more and more projects just like we've got now. We're starting to get those flow of projects coming to Wakulla County because we've loaded the till, and we just got a trick is we were successful. That's good. What we're going to do for citizens today, and that's where we're loading the till.
Are we administering a lot of these grants that we're getting?
Everything so far we're administering the grants. The only grant that we're not going to administer is our the NIFWIF, or not NIFWIF
The
money.
NERDA.
The
The
NERDA
NERDA
money.
project.
Did you say NIFWIF?
NIFWIF, but
Does that
it's
stand
actually
for?
NERDA money. We've got a
Fish and
NERDA
Wildlife
grant.
Federation.
We've got
NIFWIF.
NERDA grants that have been awarded to the
Like
county,
Dr.
but the
Seuss would
state
say.
DEP is going to manage those. State DEP manages those grants.
So
Not us.
Cherie is basically paying her own salary with the grant she's getting, right?
For about 10 years in the future.
Cherie, we have a great ROI with Cherie
Yeah.
and
So
Katie.
she's not costing anything because of the grant. She's getting basically her paying your own
And also the ROI on that,
term investment.
that's right, ROI on the infrastructure plan that you were concerned about. We're good on that one, too.
I just don't like
It
plans,
just
but I
paid
guess that
off.
one was okay. I guess that one was okay.
We'll call it a roadmap.
Oh, it's something besides a plan.
Okay, we'll come up with a new name.
Well,
But it-
Cherie, I'd like to thank you for your hard work. Cherie spent a lot of years working in the state. If you ever go to the Capitol with her, she knows everybody that we pass up there. And so that experience now with the fact that you know what we need here, she's really put these packages together and made this easy for us to go after
Yep.
it. Thank you.
Thank you. It is interesting when I go to meetings and they actually ask me what I think, and I go, I'm on this side of the table now. I'm not going to help you figure out how to say no.
Also, Cherie was nominated and is sitting on a 5-member statewide board that'll be evaluating proposals for the Restore Act as far as the state management plan, so, which is a great honor.
Gary's gonna be
Only
calling
5
you
people
then.
were selected statewide. She was one of them.
I keep telling David that we need to put somebody underneath you so we can turn you loose to do what you do best, really. If we lose money, if we lose any kind of a grant because you didn't have the time, whatever, it costs us money. So the best
We're
money we
doing
ever
good.
get, even though it's still taxpayers, it's still taxpayers' money, but the best money we get is grant money. And we need to have you freed up, really, where that you can do that 100% of the time.
I can say, sometimes the best thing to have is the ability to tap on our CCNA engineers, because they have been so helpful. And I tell you, Kimley Horn, John Sewell, Preble Rish, Allen, they do a lot of the specs, and they help out tremendously when we're putting grants together. So if anything, even if we don't get a position, just the ability to reach out and use those resources that's an incredible resource this county has. And both of those firms are so committed to improving this county that they've helped me a lot. And so there's a lot of people that have helped me, and it takes a long time for me to recognize everybody. But you guys have been great. When I call you, you're there. I mean, Commissioner Thomas, Commissioner Harden, you've been to meetings with me. Commissioner Moore he's shown up. Randy with CRPTA and DOT, and Commissioner Kessler with his contacts and his perseverance in helping out. I mean, and David, it really is everybody. It's not one person.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cherie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cherie.
Our next presenter is going to be John Sewell with Kimley Horn, speaking on the Capital City to the Sea Trails.
Appreciate you having me here tonight. I'm going to be pretty brief. We're at the very beginning of an environmental study for the #1 ranked project that came out of the Capital City to Sea Trails Master Plan. As you all know, there's a map in that, and I've got a bunch of other copies of this executive summary that, for folks in the audience, if you wanted it, it really explains the process that we took to get to this point of planning out about 130, 140 miles of bike trails that will, most of which will probably end up being in Wakulla County one day. The public came together in both counties. I know there were a lot of people that had the vision for this project. It's moving forward, and it's continuing to attract funding, and this project's going to happen. And so what we're here today to do is, as a result of the master plan that was completed, is we're kicking off the environmental study for the US 98 Trail, which is the #1 ranked project that came out of the master plan. And it just so happens that it's here in Wakulla County, which is great. So what's the environmental study going to do? Well, we're going to satisfy the National Environmental Policy Act study requirements. We call them the NEPA requirements. And basically what that'll do is it'll enable this project to attract federal funds. So it'll really remove any limitations for local, state, federal funding for the project, and it's going to require kind of quilting together some different sources to get it done. But basically, this project is further broken down. And I didn't do the math on all that, but it's close to 30 miles of trail on US 98. And we've basically broken it out into 3 segments just because we know that there are going to be some environmental and physical challenges out there. The red section basically is kind of a wetland area, and that basically connects the St. Mark's Trail on 98 over to County Road 59, which is the road that takes you down to the St. Mark's Lighthouse, the wildlife refuge. The blue section there in the middle is probably going to happen first, and that actually connects the existing St. Mark's Trail all along 98, and actually that terminates right around Medart Elementary School. The reason for that, being the #1 kind of first phase of this project, is that, first of all, there's very limited environmental issues, if any. It actually is a wide open, wide right-of-way, so we're going to be able to get in there, do design, do construction with very little problems. We have 1 bridge to span, but we don't anticipate that being an issue because it's a newer bridge and it really gives us a lot of options. The last section down there that actually connects from Medart down to Ocklawahnee Bay, and I'm sorry, Commissioner, Old Clockney. I'm working on it. I'm eventually going to get there with that pronunciation, but
Many times today, the CRT.
I know. But we're going to try to connect it down to the bay. And the issue there, though, is you all know that that's probably one of the prettiest sections, but there's water on both sides of it in a few places. So we're going to have to get creative with structures to get the trail down there. But we are actually studying this entire area. We're looking at an 18-month schedule. However, I told the CRTPA this today. We've actually have our internal schedule that says 12 months. And the reason for that is we want to be very aggressive at how we go after this project. There are a lot of people waiting in line to see this thing happen and happen quickly. We feel like it's going to be funded immediately upon the completion of the PD&E. I know Mr. Ballard has been instrumental in pushing along, and the Wakulla Environmental Institute is the centerpiece for this corridor because it's going to connect directly to it. So that's another reason to push this along as quickly as we can. The one limitation, though, probably will be dealing with the Federal Highway Administration. We're going to be working with DOT closely to try to avoid having to coordinate with them because it is kind of a wild card once we get into that realm. So we're going to try to avoid that as much as possible. Based on the class of action, based on the study area, DOT should be the lead agency, and DOT intends to be that. So we're going to push forward with that. Now, sort of a windfall that we were able to realize as part of this was we had 3 top-ranked projects when we came out of this thing, out of the master plan. The top-ranked project was 98. The second-ranked project was what we call Trout Pond Trail North, and the third-ranked project would be a trail along 267 that connects from Trout Pond over to the St. Mark's Trail. Why do you want that? Well, what it actually creates is it actually creates about a 60-mile loop that's connected into both counties. So it really opens it up for some pretty significant tours and things like that. So we would actually see this being an attraction that would not only attract people from across the country, but it would be an international draw, just as the Environmental Institute will be. So the next project, though, was Trout Pond. Well, the CRTPA only had the funding to move forward with one PD&E study, which was 98. Well, through coordination with Apalachicola National Forest, they actually volunteered to actually be the lead agency to complete the NEPA study for this corridor. So what does it look like? Well, that's what it looks like. And you'll notice on the left-hand side of this map, that yellow corridor there, that's the existing 2-mile section of trail that's out there on Spring Hill Road that everybody always asks the same question. Why would you build this out in the middle of nowhere? Well, there was a plan a long time ago, and it included the trail going all the way down to Sopchoppy, and since then this route has actually been changed a little bit. But you'll notice that the red study area is actually what the Forest Service is actually going to do the NEPA study for, and you'll notice that it actually connects to 267 on the south. It goes down L.L. Wallace Road through the National Forest and connects up to the Munson Slough, which is in the city of Tallahassee. The city of Tallahassee is moving forward with all of their sections in the city, and eventually that blue trail that you see on the north end will actually connect all the way in to Capitol Cascades Park in downtown Tallahassee. So that will connect to Tallahassee. It will connect down through the forest, down to 267, all the way over to the St. Mark's Trail, down to St. Mark's, connect to 98, and connect to the bay. And ultimately, that will probably be about what we can probably accomplish here in the next decade. And that's where this is the direction that we're moving. We're going to be coordinating with the Forest Service on providing some engineering to their environmental staff, and this is moving forward. So I told you I was going to keep it brief. If you have any questions at this point, I'd be glad to answer them.
These were obviously made for politicians, too, because they got a lot of pictures.
They sure were.
John, you say Ocklackney? Is that what?
I'm trying.
Let me tell you.
Help me out here.
When I came here 8 years ago, OCH generally is pronounced Ock. I called it Ocklackney until they beat me over the head, and it's Oaklackney.
Oaklackney. Oaklackney Day. Oaklackney. Thank you.
It's Oaklackney.
All right.
It's not. It's
everybody. 1, 2. No, I'm just kidding.
Between you and I, it's Ocklackney.
Then we'll move on.
Oaklackney.
We'll move on to Sopchoppy after that.
I'm gonna go home and tell my wife I learned something good tonight.
Yeah.
So. All right.
And John, we received a lot of calls about flags up and down 98.
Yeah.
That was the purpose of this, was for this trail, correct?
On 98, I don't think so. I think over on Surf Road you had flags, wasn't it over there, or was it 98?
There were some on 98 as well.
Yeah.
I actually don't know what that was
And
for.
according to Harry, it was a part of the PD&E.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, over by...
It ran from St. Mark's, I
Yeah.
think, almost all the way to Meadowlark.
I don't know what that was
He
for.
said it was a part of the PDE for this that they had released. I don't know.
That's our story, and we're sticking to it.
That's what Harry
us.
got in the email. So.
Okay.
So we'll follow up with Harry if that's not correct.
Yeah. Well, we'll be out there with waders on and all kinds of bug spray, so. Any other questions?
No, I just have a comment. I
Sure.
just want to thank you and your firm of Kimberly Horn for, I know you get paid for it,
Yeah?
but it's a work of love, because I don't know how many of you know that John is an avid bicycler. And this is a project that's been long in coming, and it's going to continue to be long in coming as it keeps on getting improved and grows. But now we can actually see some real light at the end of the tunnel with some significant segments that is really going to have an economic impact on this county.
It's going to be huge.
huge, and it's part of the overall ecotourism that this county is moving to, and this is just such a great thing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem, and I will bring it up that I think there are plans afoot for Bike Week next year, which is in May, to organize a pretty significant tour that will actually follow the proposed route and have overnight stays down here in Wakulla County, so you'll have lots of overnight visitors, but some of these tours can attract, somewhere, in the 1,000 a rider area. So it's a pretty big impact, and they're actually starting to put those plans together right now. It's actually going to be led by Bike Florida. So they're pretty excited about it. And we'll bring back some information if that continues to move forward.
Super.
So,
Thank
sure,
you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll leave these executive summaries out on the table outside if anybody would like them.
Thank you. Our next presentation is going to be given by Mr. Randy Nicholas, who's president of 211 Big Bend. He's going to be giving a presentation about that organization and what it does for our area.
Thank you, Chairman Hardin and Commissioners. I appreciate the invitation to share information about our 211 Big Bend services in the Big Bend 8-county area. We serve Wakulla as part of our service area, so I'd like to not only tell you about all the service we do, but specifically some things we do in Wakulla. We are a nonprofit agency, and we are funded through United Way, our local government, state government, and some other grants. And I think we're a key organization to help our human service network in the Big Bend. We have a 24-hour hotline service. It's operated all the time with paid staff and volunteers, and they're all very well trained. They can provide crisis intervention, suicide prevention. We are also a clearinghouse for information about all human services in the Big Bend. So if you need anything, any information about how to help your children, how to help your parents, how to help your family with any types of services related to human services and health services, we can point you in the right direction, and we can do some follow-up, and we can also provide supportive counseling, and if needed, crisis intervention on that call. It's easy to call us. We have a 3-digit number, 211. We've been using that number for about 12 years, and you can call it on a cell phone, landline. If there's any problem with that, we also have a 7-digit number, and we're still working with all the telephone companies because there are problems periodically with cell phones. It's available not only in our 8-county through our agency, but throughout Florida. There is a 211 service in all 67 counties, and there's 16 of us total around the state. We're all a little bit different, but we all provide the same basic information services. We also have 211s throughout the country, so if you ever travel or move and you know somebody in another part of the country that needs help, 211 is the number to call. Just like you would call 911 for emergencies, 211s for any other type of human service issues and crisis intervention and suicide prevention. So with that, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a summary of what we do. We answer about 50,000 calls a year. 800 or so are from Wakulla County. We also have some other services besides 211, so that number is including some statewide services we provide. We have a lot of people also accessing our information through our website. Over 50,000 people look at our website each year, including 6,500 or so that search our online database. And that's the information that we keep in our agency about all the human services, and we update it every year, at least once a year. So it's always good, accurate information, and it's a lot easier to go there or to call us for that help than to go to a telephone book or even a website search where you may get a lot of things that aren't related to what you need. So our callers often have issues related to housing, utilities, food, employment. They have financial needs, and we also help refer them to financial education as well as tax preparation assistance through the United Way and AARP and other programs. We provide a lot of mental health and counseling support and referrals. We also have a lot of information about medical services throughout our communities. and we help with issues like substance abuse, child abuse. We can help direct people in the right directions, and as well as provide support in crisis intervention. Another important thing that, knock on wood, we don't need very often is disaster services. A few years ago we had Tropical Storm Debbie come through, and I know a lot of flooding occurred in Wakulla County. We work with our local emergency management, which kind of encompasses the whole 8-county area, and with our community organizations active in disaster. And that's the Red Cross, Salvation Army, a lot of other organizations. So in the case of the flooding, people were given our number to call. We would collect the information about what problems they were having and get it back to the COAD groups, community organizations, who would then send people out to help, muck out homes, cut trees off roofs, and so on. So that's a key service that we provide if there's ever a disaster. And we're always preparing, we're always working with emergency management to do preparation and get ready for the next one. Hopefully it won't be this year. So with the data, going back to the database real quick, we have over 2,200 programs, 1,000 organizations cataloged, indexed, we can help people with. Of those 22 organizations and 51 programs are actually located in Wakulla County, but there are several other, like 835 total programs that serve Wakulla County. So by calling us, we can help people find needed help. Couple special collaborations that we are also involved with. We work with outreach, reentry programs with prisons and jails to help people who are being released reintegrate back into the community to prevent recidivism, reduce recidivism. We're working on a continuum of care for homeless services. We're working with children's issues, whole child pact, different groups that are formed to coordinate services, especially those for at-risk children and families. And also we're working a lot with the health coalitions around our communities. So we have a lot of things we do, and I'm hoping that this will help educate a few people about 211 and our services. We're always available. We have about 22 paid staff plus about 100 volunteers, and they're all well trained. We're accredited, staff are certified, and we appreciate you helping us pass the word and supporting our service. I don't know if you have any questions.
I thank you, Mr. Nick. I think we got some questions coming from.
Yeah, please. So when you have the suicide line and someone from Wakulla County calls, how does that work? Is that coordinated with NAMI here, or how does that
Well,
flow?
NAMI is a referral we can offer. When we get a caller that is considering suicide, the first thing we do is listen and try to support what they're going through and understand what they're going through and engage them in talking about the situations. And our goal on all suicide calls is to de-escalate the situation so whoever's calling us feels more rational by the end of that call and says, I'm no longer going to be actively thinking about taking my life. Now, in worst case scenarios, when there's a high risk and we don't get to that point, then we try to get either a family member or them to agree to seek help at that immediate time, or we can engage law enforcement to help intervene and get them to a hospital for further assessment.
So when this call comes in on the suicide line, are those specialized people?
No, all of our counselors are trained to do suicide crisis intervention.
Okay.
So whether they're answering one of our specialized lines, when we do answer the Lifeline, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, we're a regional crisis center that answers calls from the North Florida area. It's about 14 counties, 8 counties plus 6 more west of here. And the same counselors that answer that line are answering our 211 number, 211 line. So they're all trained in our area. Now some 211s across the country don't have as extensive a training in the suicide and crisis intervention, but we have a very comprehensive program.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
A couple years ago, I remember you had a book with all your referral sources on there. I'm not sure if I missed it or if you mentioned it, but I see that you now have an iPhone app that you can access those.
Right.
And so I'd like to encourage folks to go download
That's
that.
great. Yeah, we stopped producing a print directory because by the time you got it done, it was becoming out of date.
is very expensive to produce and distribute, and so everything is online, and we do have an iPhone app. We hope to have an Android app in the near future, so it's easy to access through your mobile device or just go on your computer to our website. Thank you.
I think this is a great organization that's provided our area, and I just encourage everyone listening at home to remember the number, and if they're in any situation, a crisis situation or human needs situation, that they can call you. And I appreciate your time and willingness to come and share your presentation with us tonight.
Thank you, and I'll leave some materials out here too that you can pass out, and posters and cards and just information about our services. So thank you for inviting me tonight.
Thank you. Our next presenter is going to be Mr. Bob Ballard, TCC Executive Director. He's going to be speaking about the Wakulla Environmental Institute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Thank you for inviting me here today, and I come here for two reasons. One is to inform you of what we're looking to do with the Wakulla Environmental Institute as it relates to Wakulla Springs State Park. And two, to solicit your support for tomorrow's meeting, which will be at 7 o'clock in Woodville at the Public Library. So first, what I'd like to do is kind of go through exactly what we're going to be doing and what we're not going to be doing if we get approval from the state to go forward with this 2,000-acre lease. Over on the screen, you see the outline of Wakulla Springs State Park. And if you can make out Highway 61 there, we're looking to lease. Thanks. We're looking to lease for 50 years everything west of Highway 61. So everything below Highway 61 on this map, which is west. That's 2,000 acres. Let me describe that land, if I may. 35 years ago, that land was clear-cut by St. Joe. 15 years ago, that land was purchased by DEP. Matter of fact, as Deputy Secretary, that was one of the first pieces of property I purchased as the new Deputy Secretary for the Department of Environmental Protection, to go under management with the Florida Park Service, in particular Wakulla Springs State Park. That land also encompasses Cherokee Sink. It also has a cemetery on it. Edward Ball, way back when, it's my understanding, had a landing strip on that property. So that property, that 2,000 acres, has been abused and neglected for decades. It is our purpose to take that land and restore it, using it as a hands-on training center for our AS degree students at Wakulla Environmental Institute. These students will be training in park and recreation management and forest management. People think when a park ranger, well, let me back up. The park rangers and forest rangers of today, there's this big bubble going through the calendar, the timeline, and the baby boomers are about to start retiring in a major way. In 2017 through 2027, the vast majority of baby boomers will have retired. And we're looking to capture that information from the baby boomers and have them train the next generation of park rangers and forest rangers. And if we don't capture that information will be lost. We'll be looking forward to using retired park rangers and forest rangers to help train our next generation of park land managers, as well as people from places like Tall Timbers and the Nature Conservancy. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, this is, if you look over on the upper left-hand corner, that's where Wakulla Springs Lodge is located. Then you see again Highway 61. The blue lines that you see running in there are the submerged caverns. That information was given to us by the Florida Park Service. And we've worked with the Florida Park Service about this design that we've got here. What we're looking to do, other than training, using this as a hands-on training facility for the next generation of park rangers, we're also looking for this as a place for park rangers to train in the skills of hospitality. Park rangers don't only work out in the forest, but they work with the people that come into their state parks, and they have to manage them. About 80% of the things that they do have to dealing with people in hospitality. So let me start over to the right and tell you what we're going to be doing with Cherokee Sink. As you see, all the way to the right-hand corner, almost on the edge, is Cherokee Sink. What we'd like to be doing with that is putting a boardwalk around Cherokee Sink to prevent any kind of erosion that's going on. We would direct swimmers in and out via steps there, and so they wouldn't be allowed to go off the boardwalk or other than going through the steps to get into the water. That will allow the Cherokee Sink to be restored back to a pre-1600, pre-European time, which is what we're looking for. We would be putting in flush toilets that would be hooked up to the county sewer line, which would allow public swimming for the first time in 15 years. Pretty much from the day that the state bought the property, the county health department has closed this site until flush toilets went into place. That would be addressed. Also, we would be providing a picnic area, a pavilion, and a parking lot for 30 cars. There's also a cemetery right next to Cherokee Sink, and I mean right next to Cherokee Sink, that has been neglected. Actually, we believe that there's a road that goes right over the top of the cemetery. We would be addressing the issues. I've actually talked to a family member that has family members buried there. There's about 25 to 40 grave sites there. They're not sure exactly how many. A lot of the tombstones were thrown actually in Cherokee Sink, and they're there currently. We want to fence off this cemetery and pay the proper respect and interpret what went on. This is a part of Florida history, and we want to bring that to light of the people that will recreate at this sink. And we want to again bring back public swimming for the first time in 15 years back to Cherokee Sink. Now over to the left side, where you see the kind of a weird shaped peanut over there, that actually was helped, the design was helped by the Florida Park Service. That's their typical campground park. Over here we would have 60 campsites. We would have 10 yurt sites. There would be a ranger station. There would be campground, playground area. There would be restrooms and a pavilion. There would be also a maintenance compound and 2 caretaker campsites. Other than that, there would be nothing else that would go there, nothing else that the Wakulla Environmental Institute would ask for. People asked, will there be classrooms on the site or anything like that, any buildings on the site? And the answer to that would be no. We're not interested in doing that. That would all be located at the Wakulla Environmental Institute campus. On this entire 2,000 acres, there would be no septic tanks whatsoever. Everything here would be hooked up to county sewer. Not only that, the septic tanks that are in Wakulla Springs State Park that exist right now, we've offered to pay for those septic tanks to be removed and hook those up to county sewer as well. We believe that once Wakulla Environmental Institute gets in here and finishes its project, the water quality at Wakulla Springs will improve. There will be absolutely no equestrian use allowed on this 2,000 acres. There will be no cave diving allowed on this 2,000 acres. I've worked with the Wakulla Springs Alliance. I've had a number of meetings with them. They've helped to make this plan better. I've dealt with Jim Stevenson, who he and I for 2 hours hammered out solutions to issues that they had that made this project better, such as the sewer line that goes from the campground that crosses over a subterranean cave system. We would have the sewer line where it did cross over that cave system be above ground, so if there were any issues with that line, we'd be able to detect it immediately. There'd be no leaching into the soils. We would catch that right away. We initially asked for a 60 site parking lot. We've reduced it based on Jim Stevenson's request to 30. Just trying to think of anything else that I can think of that will inform you of what exactly it is that we're trying to do. Oh, also, they've asked that the road that exists now to Cherokee Sink actually crosses over a subterranean cave system. We will be moving that road to avoid the cave system altogether, based on a suggestion from Jim Stevenson. So, and also, I heard that the campground will be right next to Cherokee Sink. Actually, the distance between the campground and Cherokee Sink is almost a mile long. We will be getting advice and direction from the experts, top experts in the field in the state of Florida about longleaf pine and wiregrass. We've already been in extensive conversation with the Nature Conservancy about their wonderful projects at just above Torreya Park, and we're really excited about this project, and I really would appreciate support from the County Commission on what we're doing here, and would like to entertain any questions that you may have so I can clarify what we're trying to do here.
Any questions amongst Commissioners?
I'll have a statement after.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, so, hi, Bob.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
So, yeah, I guess there's several concerns here.
Yes, sir.
We discussed them before.
Mhm.
And Wakulla Springs Alliance, of course, has expressed their concerns, and I don't know that at this point in time Jim Stevenson is actually on board with this project, but I think it's good to have dialogue. And I know that some of those changes that were made came out of your conversations with Jim Stevenson. And
That's correct.
I appreciate that. One of the things is, there's private, well, first of all, is there a need? Have you done a need analysis over here, a feasibility study of if this project has legs?
The short answer to your question is no. When I came into, in 1999, oversaw the Florida Park Service, amongst other things as my job. The Florida Park Service was at 14 million visitors a year, and it was pretty stagnant, just a flat line. We made some tweaks, added a international reservation system, and within just a few years we went from 14 million visitors to 22 million visitors. It just shot up overnight. Ochlockonee State Park, did I say it right?
You got it, man.
All right. For the first time well, its history was consistently filling up on the weekend because of that reservation system. And the Florida Park Service said that they'd get around to it. And I said, no, you're going to get around to it now because this means jobs for the folks in the area. And it means also more environmental activists for our state parks. The more people that go into a Florida park, the more they come out wanting to protect and preserve them. So you want to get more people into the environment so you have more people that will want to protect it. If people have never been to Wakulla Springs, they don't care about protecting it. We want to get more people into Wakulla Springs so they can voice their concern about making sure that we do the right thing to protect it.
Thanks. So this issue of bringing more people into a park has a dual edge on it. The more people we bring into a park, there's a sort of a capacity that any park can tolerate before it starts degrading. This land that you're looking to lease through TCC, was bought primarily, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, to basically primarily, it has multifunction, but primarily to improve the water quality at Wakulla Springs.
Yes. One of the things that we would be doing is by opening up Cherokee Sink, you'd be relieving some of the overcrowding that's at the spring head itself. There should be a carrying capacity that's done at Wakulla Springs. There should be a carrying capacity at Cherokee Sink, just like we did for Ichetucknee Springs State Park. Jim Stevenson put in a carrying capacity based on science probably 15 years ago. And then we adjusted that carrying capacity to 750. It was 1,000, and then we adjusted it to 750 based on science, and found out that that was the right balance of inner tubers going down Ichetucknee Springs per day. And the environment could recover on a daily basis and whatnot. That needs to be done at Cherokee Sink. It needs to be done at Wakulla Springs. But right now, the 2,000 acres, it's unmanaged. It's a mess. It is. I walked through there again on Friday, and I saw zero wildlife. Zero. You should be seeing gopher tortoises. You should be seeing red-cock-headed woodpeckers. It should be longleaf pine and wiregrass. And it's a monoculture. There are no animals in there to speak of except for armadillos and that kind of thing. It needs to be a vibrant ecosystem, and it is not right now. When we get a hold of it and restore that property, we will bring it back to a wonderful ecosystem that it needs to be.
Okay, thank you.
A couple of things. I was surprised through this process to learn that there's still septic tanks at Wakulla Springs. You know, we've got a springs protection zone, and we've been talking about septic tanks for years in this county, and now we still have them there. So I appreciate your efforts there to get that out of the groundwater and into the county sewer. I think that would be a big step. We all know that Wakulla Springs is the crown jewel of our county, and we have a lot of visitors come here. In spite of that, the lodge has struggled. It's changed hands a couple times in private management, and you know, I understand that contract is coming to an end again. And so, you know, I think we have to look at different methods. I think this is something that's done in an environmentally sensitive way, that it will supplement that, not take away from that. So I appreciate these efforts, and certainly all the details have to be worked out, and we can't possibly know all of that at this point. But I'd like to say that I appreciate the investment that TCC is making into Wakulla County, not just this project, but the Wakulla Environmental Institute. So I would like to thank you and thank TCC for that effort, and let you know that I'm squarely behind standing up for you and moving this thing forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
5 years ago, when the when we put that the lodge and restaurant out to bid, I was a part of that process, and we found the very best vendor. We knew who the very best vendor in the state was for the Florida Park Service. We got them to come in here and do Wakulla Springs because we thought that if they can't do it, nobody can. And they had the best reputation, and they brought in the best materials and whatnot. And after 5 years, they couldn't make it. They're leaving in October. And now a new vendor they have to find a new vendor to take their place. If the best can't make it work, who is going to make it work? So now think about it on the other side as an economic thing. And as a Wakulla Environmental Institute, I'm more focused on the environment, but there's an economic advantage to this project as well. In that, think about you have 70 folks or 70 different families per night, let's say, if we're full at this campground. There are going to be grandparents or parents of the kids that have their kids at this that are vacationing, and the grandparents they're too old or don't want to camp or sleep on the ground or whatnot. they have an opportunity to go on the same vacation with their kids and grandkids and stay at a lodge that is only 50% occupied. And where are these folks going to go when they want to get away from the kids and go out to dinner? They're going to go to someplace they can walk to go to dinner at the Wakulla, the famous Wakulla Lodge. I mean, this actually helps the Florida Park Service. That's why the director of the Florida Park Service is so excited about this partnership, because he knows that this will help a struggling lodge system that they have there, that this will only help. And if we're going to make the environment better on what we're doing, and we bring in economic advantage, it's a win-win for everybody.
I agree.
I also want to thank you, and I appreciate your efforts, and I'm fully supported as well.
Yeah, that's you.
I fully support it as well. You mentioned a few minutes ago about it being unmanaged, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I think your plan makes sense economically and environmentally, because of the property was once clear cut. You mentioned it even once had a airstrip on it and different things, and for right now, for the most part, they own it, and it's just surplus property that's there, but it's not being, I don't think properly managed environmentally. And I think what the Environmental Institute will do will be come in and on a personal level totally revive this property and just improve it, and I think it'll be a huge asset to our county, and also as people come there, I think it will additionally raise awareness to the importance of our springs.
Mr. Chair, when I say it is unmanaged, that's not the fault of the Florida Park Service.
Right.
They don't have the resources to do it.
Right.
And Donald Forgione had mentioned to me, he said, Bob, I love this project, but I'm jealous because we'd love to do it, but we can't afford to do it. You can do things that we can't do. So it's not their fault. They just don't have the resources to pull it off.
Right. Oh, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
I was
I
go down.
have the last word, so I want to say something, and I don't want to say it after Commissioner Morrison's
Okay.
the last word.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, but it doesn't matter.
I'll go down and
I just want to ask about the meeting tomorrow night.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's at 7 p.m.,
It's at 7 p.m., Public Library in Woodville.
and that's located landmark-wise.
If you go just, I can either do two ways. South of Capitol Circle, 2.8 miles south of Capitol Circle, it's in the Lewis Hall Park.
Okay.
If you go to Lewis Hall Park and take a left, it looks like a deserted road. If you go down a half a mile, it's on the right-hand side.
It's on Oak Ridge Road. You go north on Old Woodville Highway, it runs right into it.
Okay?
Right, gotcha.
8,000 Old Woodville Highway.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's a meeting where you'll be making a presentation.
The president of TCC will be making a presentation. I will follow up with pretty much what you just heard from me tonight, and then the public will speak. I think they have each 2 to 3 minutes each, and we will stay there until everybody who wants to speak has spoken.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Moore?
We unfortunately have an idea in this county with a certain group of people that we don't want anybody else to come to town, that we're happy where we are, let's just keep everybody out. And I would like to remind the public that this is TCC College, this is Wakulla Environmental Institute. How can you get any better than that? And it seems like if you don't go out and hug a tree, that you're not an environmentalist. 99% of the people in this county believe in the environment, protect the environment, do what's right by the environment. They get branded for some reason that, there's something different, but that's just grossly untrue. You mentioned the subterranean cave system and so forth, that you got to go visual over the top of that. That's good. That feels really good. You put sewer in a good long plastic pipe, it isn't going to get out of it. But anyway, it looks good. I would say when you say that you're going to, in your planning, Mr. Stevenson's well qualified, a super environmentalist and whatever. I would basically say this, that we have an interest in this planning too, the board here. we, most likely, we all, well, at least I think the majority of us totally support what you're doing. So we need to be involved in your decisions on how many campsites you put in. The Springs Association is sort of like a country club of wealthy people who protect the springs, and I give them all the accolades for that. The water, it's a wonderful asset to our county, but they don't run the county. When you say that you're going to open up Cherokee Sink, I'm sure Commissioner Thomas has been in that sink many times.
All my life.
Yes, and I'm sure that most of the county has been in that. His mother's been in that sink many times. She was probably down there looking after Ralph, but
now, I'd have been in trouble if she'd have been down.
When you put the when you allow somebody to dictate the parking to you, in that, and you compromise on 30 parking spaces, you could have 100 young people, and now all of a sudden you've compromised on 30. I think we should be in that mix. 30, with all due respect, 30 is not enough parking spaces for a swimming hole. We got 40 people jumping off a bridge at Upper Bridge on any weekend, and we tell them they can't even do it. So we need to be in that mix. You gave up because of environmental whatever. You gave up 120 campsites, which I don't think you should have given up. You're going to put everything on sewer. The deer in the woods put more pollution in the springs than you will ever think about putting. You gave up 120 campsites to 60. You gave up a horse park. The deer put more manure in the woods than the horse park would put in the woods. I think we need to be more involved. I think if the Springs Association decide that this is what you need to do, I think you need to bring it over to us and say, can we negotiate this? I just don't want to see you get tied in to something that restricts your ability to help Wakulla County to provide jobs. And I was told by a legislator, a consultant for the legislator, and I was talking to him about TCC and whatever. He says, you will not believe in 10 or 15 years the contribution that a college will make to your community. And for the people on TV land, we will have a college in our county. We will really have a college. We don't have a whole lot of opportunity for jobs and technology and so forth. We need to give this man the support, and TCC and Dr. Murdoch. We just need to give them 100% of support and bring your problems to us. I'm not happy that I'm not involved in 30 parking spaces. I'm not happy that I'm not involved in a horse park. I'm not happy that I'm not involved at twice the number of campsites. You got 2,000 acres. The park will be better because of you 100 times.
Randy?
These campsites, you gonna be able to put an RV on them?
They'll be for tent camping and RV. Each one will be for tent camping and RV, the 60, and then there will be 10 yurt-style camping, which is kind of a permanent tent, if you will. For people who don't have the tent equipment, they can still enjoy the facilities without having their own equipment. They'd have to have their own sleeping bag, and that would be basically it.
So they're gonna have a sewer hookup and an electric hookup on each
They will have
site?
On each site, they will have a sewer hookup. On each site, they'll have electric hookup. On each site, they'll have water, whether it's a tent or it's an RV.
I think this is a great idea, and I'm behind it 100%.
I fully support it, and I'm also behind you.
Thank you.
Have you looked at the Newport camp site that the county has as far as using it as an opportunity
No.
to rehab? And I think that would be of interest. I don't know the exact arrangement we have right now. I've asked staff today to look into it. But I think, ecotourism is the driver of our county for the future, I hope. But I think with regards to this, I still have concerns, and I think that we need to really learn more about it. and that meeting tomorrow night hopefully will go into more depth.
And Commissioner, the one thing, and actually this goes to all the commissioners, the one thing that we're focused on, the number one issue, is to make this the greenest, most environmentally campground in the nation, so we can show the rest of the world how to do it right. And so some of these other things, the other thing, I will make sure that on our advisory committee, we have a county commissioner as representative on that advisory committee for this project.
And I've talked to Bob about this as well, as I believe that this will actually help our Newport campground. It will actually drive business to our Newport campground.
Well,
we're staff likes it as well.
Mr. Chair, can I respond
Yes,
to
go
that?
ahead, yeah.
This will one day be a Florida State campground. We have gotten permission to use the Florida State reservation system that I put in place 10 years ago. When the campgrounds around the state parks would be closed because of a hurricane. Anywhere a hurricane hit the state of Florida, it hit a state park, because state parks were, we have 164 of them. The Chamber of Commerce would give me a call right after the storm passed and say, Bob, would you get this campground open? Would you get the state park open, because our other campgrounds are suffering? They're not open until you're open, because they would feed off of the, 60 campsites is nothing. We'll have that filled in a heartbeat, and we'll be able to direct these campers into other campgrounds in the area. I've already talked to the Campground Association representative, and he is all for it. Matter of fact, he'll be speaking tomorrow on this project. So they're excited, because this is going to bring money in and revenue into their program as well.
I believe, please excuse me, but I believe you have discovered an unbelievable cave system at your facility.
Yeah, on
we
campus, yes. We've got a massive cave system on campus that we discovered after we purchased it, and we will be using that to train for professional divers there and only there.
One last comment. Anyone that's been around for any number of years and can see the way TCC has progressed in Tallahassee and Leon County, it's easy to see that you guys are serious about what you're doing. You invest in your local communities. I'd love to see someone ask Gadsden County if they would like for the Law Enforcement Academy to pull out of there. That's been a big benefit to their community.
Sure.
And so, the investment that you're making here is unparalleled. We haven't had anything. Remember how excited we were when Walmart came to town. This is way, way, way above what Walmart did for our community. So we need to do everything we can to roll out the red carpet to TCC, and we appreciate that.
Dr. Murdoch was the driving force for the Law Center.
Absolutely.
And Bob, I'm a TCC alum, by the way.
Congratulations, very good.
I had to throw that in.
Thank you for your time.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Our next presentation is going to be the Capital City Youth Services, given by Mr. Kevin Priest.
Good evening. Kevin Priest, Capital City Youth Services CEO and President.
And my name is Jess Tharp. I'm the Development Director for Capital City Youth Services.
And we are here to request the support of the Board of County Commissioners on our newest project that we're looking into with Wakulla County. We provide a number of services to a wide range of Big Bend communities throughout the Big Bend area. We have emergency shelter, 18-bed emergency shelter. It's in Leon County. The exact address is 2407 Roberts Avenue. And we provide individual and family counseling along with transitional living. And our latest venture is street outreach with our advocates for street outreach. And we've been able to do that in Leon County with some activity down in Wakulla. And what we'd like to do at this point in time is we're seeking emergency solutions grant money through the Department of Children and Families that will help us expand that street outreach program to include an advocate here in Wakulla County dealing primarily with youth ages 16 to 22 that are either runaways, homeless, or somewhat otherwise disenfranchised. And would love to entertain any questions or concerns with our our venture, and we'd love to have the support from the
Do you call
county
that
commissioners.
street outreach? Is that the...
Yes.
You know, it's so amazing, because just this past week, a person I know, 14-year-old daughter has run away 3 times.
Right.
They spent all day, one day looking for her, couldn't find her, brought her home, she ran away again. I guess you could call her a runaway. But and he didn't have any source to go to. He was going to one source, but it wasn't a professional source.
Certainly.
And that's somewhere that you could probably help.
Is this an agenda item later, or
Yes, I've got this under Commissioner Agenda Items.
you want to go ahead and do it now, if we got unanimous support, and then, is that all right?
I would make that motion if we do.
That's fine with me, if
That's
it's
fine.
appropriate on the agenda.
Is that okay with you, Heather?
They've already
Yes.
approved the agenda. They've already approved the agenda, so.
Well, but we can just,
He did it under
It's
his
under
item.
Commissioner
Under his
Agenda
item,
Items.
Under his
And
item.
we just go ahead and vote on it now, so they can know if it's going to
Yeah.
pass instead of having
You've
to
already
vote.
Well,
approved
we can
it.
just tell them, if we have unanimous thing, that it's going to fly, so I'll make my statement. And I've had personal contact with your facility on Roberts Road. It's not just for runaways, there are all different situations that you cover. It's a fantastic facility, it's a fantastic staff that you have there, and I would be totally supportive of it.
Thank you very much.
I'm also fully supportive of it as well.
Great.
I move that we approve the resolution to support their grant.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and second.
You get it, Brenda?
Any other discussion?
No.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
It's a letter of support, not a resolution, she said.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's correct. Letter of
Brenda
support.
got that, I think.
And it is in the agenda.
Brenda
item.
got it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. We very much appreciate your support.
And we
Thank
thank
you.
you for branching into our community. Thank you.
Indeed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Super.
Randy's going to get her a little name tag like y'all got up there, so everybody knows.
Did
Jerry and me, but I'll give it to Jerry.
Give it to Jerry.
Mhm.
All right, next, Commissioner Kessler added another item, about, the library director, Scott Joyner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott Joyner, who is our present library director until sometime close in the near future, he's leaving us. And I remember when Doug Jones stepped down, and I said, man, how do you fill the shoes of Doug Jones? Incredible force in our library, in our community. And not taking anything away from Doug Jones, Scott was groomed by Doug Jones, did an incredible job during the time he's here. I just want to make a point of acknowledging that, and that that we as a board give him a kudos of job well done. The movies, the summer programs, it goes on and on. Just a fantastic resource in our community, and now I can make that statement again. It's going to be hard to fill Scott Joyner's shoes.
Couldn't agree more.
Couldn't agree more as well.
Where is he going?
City of Tallahassee. He couldn't pass up, he had a great offer, and he actually, I was going to present it at the last meeting, but it wasn't official at that point in time, so now it's official. So I was going to bring it up, but you've already got it, so.
Oh, you gotta
Yeah,
move on.
we'll miss him, but it's a good move for him, professionally and financially, so he's good for him.
Sometimes
He
you
is-
got to move on to move up.
That's right.
He
He's
has
gonna do
done
nothing
wonders
but
with the
better himself,
library.
and I want every employee we got to better themselves, so.
Yeah, he's done wonders with the library, and he's
Yep.
done a tremendous amount to be at each festival and each event to raise awareness to our library and all of its services. So I think he needs to definitely be given kudos. That concludes all of our awards and presentations. We've got a lot of business to go into tonight. What I would like to ask, if we just take just a little 5-minute recession before going into the business.
We ain't halfway done yet, in other words.
We just started.
The first item, we have item number 1 that was requested to be pulled. Commissioner Castro, I believe you pulled that one.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me go to minutes of the board. Okay. So, I can't find my notes, but I'll, basically it deals with the consent agenda item on the minutes of the last meeting, and I'm going to try to look for it quickly again.
Page 11.
Page 11. Oh, okay. There we go. Thank you. I got 1711 consent items pulled for. Sorry about the delay, but I don't see it. I'm looking for the letter. Do you have it on yours? Commissioner agenda. Oh, under commission agenda items. Okay, that's where. So you say that's page 11?
Yeah, page down one more.
Okay.
Page 11 of 193.
Okay, let's see, general business, commission, okay, you got it. Thanks, Ralph, appreciate it. Okay. All right. So, I'd like to consider, the board to consider amending the minutes to reflect a couple of things that were in our discussion and mentioned specifically in the direction for to be included in the letter, as I understood it. And one was the geometric design. That phrase is missing from this, and also needs to be in our letter. So the geometric design in our letter, and the concern. Public concern and lack of support, and also that the proposition of consideration should be given to the spur off of the for the proposed realignment, so that all of those things were discussed and I thought were intended to be in the letter, and if they're not in the minutes, it's hard to justify them being in the letter that we're sending out.
The way I remember it, Howard, was I asked you to modify it to have them due to citizen concern, take another look at it and consider both safety and geometric design. And that was the extent of it. So I agree that the geometric part is missing there, but as far as looking at the spur and all this other stuff, like I said, mine was a very limited. Your motion, actually, as requested by me, was very limited in scope.
And Brandy, we talked about this, did you not clarify with Randy about geometric and the design?
Yes, I read the motion back, and I left out the geometric design when I read it back, because you kind of went back and forth a little bit, and you said...
Yeah, with the design part. So, I mean, that's the reason we put in the letter what's in the letter.
I don't think it's a huge issue.
No, it's design is looking at it, so.
Okay, so would you be agreeable to putting that back into the minutes, the geometric design?
Can we do that, or is it, are the minutes actually, because she asked me
If that was the motion.
that was,
Yeah, she asked you directly, is design okay? And you said yes.
okay, well,
Is it just a typing thing?
So I'll make that
I
motion.
don't mind changing it later, Howard, to
Well-
put geometric in there, but I don't think we can modify the official record.
Well, that's what we're doing now. This is, before it's approved, now's the time to do amendments. We actually can modify the
And
official...
it's fine with me.
Okay.
It's not a big issue.
In the minutes, that it was the intent to include that wording in the letter.
Yes, that's perfectly fine. So again, this is not a
Okay,
big
so that's my
issue.
motion.
It's just one word, geometric.
I'll second that.
So this is a motion and second to put the word geometric into the minutes, is that what
Yes,
this is?
that's right.
And it
Before the
is-
word design.
And it is something that you did say that,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
All right.
Okay. You know, and obviously I feel that there was more to it, but this is at least something that could be in there.
Just clarify for me now, I know you mentioned a couple other things, but if we make this motion second, that's simply pertaining to the word geometric, right? That's not
That's right.
pertaining to the other...
This is
thing.
just dealing with the minutes, Mr. Chairman,
Mhm.
and to include that word as part of the direction given by the
Okay.
board.
One word.
One word, got it. Okay, we have a
I'll
more...
second that. Was that a motion?
We have a
I
motion
second
made, we have a motion made and second to include the word geometric into the minutes of the last meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Our next item that was pulled was consent item number 4. Commissioner Kessler, you also pulled that one?
This was request board approval to schedule and advertise public hearing to consider ordinance amending section 11.040 of the Wakulla County Code of Ordinances, updating the effective date of the flood insurance study and flood insurance rate maps for Wakulla County.
Yeah, and I just would like for staff to explain what is exactly taking place as far as what we're actually going to be advertising.
Louis?
Yes, this ordinance basically changes the date of the FEMA flood maps, and it's based on FEMA's updates to the flood maps. So we're required to reflect the new information, which is the latest maps, which are effective in September of this year.
We are required. This is not optional. If we want to stay in the, what is it, flood insurance, national flood insurance
If we want
program?
to keep our 15% and get better, we got to do this.
Well,
That's
we
right,
have,
it is
we have to do
required.
it. And I believe James is already enforcing these new elevation standards already. Okay.
That's right.
Yep. So I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion made and second to approve. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Next
Okay.
agenda item that was pulled is request board approval to schedule and advertise a public hearing to consider an ordinance whether the purpose of determining whether the Wakulla County Charter should be amended to require nonpartisan election of all elected county officials.
What item is that? Oh, 7.
Tab number 7. And I just wanted to note to you all that there was, this agenda item went out while I was in China. I made some modifications to the ordinance. Afterwards, you have a handout in front of you. You got last week. What this revised ordinance does is clarify that the nonpartisan elections will apply to county commissioners, the clerk of court, the property appraiser, the sheriff, the supervisor of elections, and the tax collector. Those are the only offices you have the authority to impact with your charter.
Okay, you need a motion to approve that? So moved.
Second.
Pulled by Dr. Kessler.
Oh, I'm sorry, Howard. Go ahead if you...
That's okay. It's motioned, and was it seconded already? That's fine. That's fine. Okay.
Brittany, did you get that?
Okay, we have a motion made and second. I've also got a citizen that has turned in a card to speak on this item as well. Hugh Taylor.
Hugh Taylor, 1357 Martin Luther King Road. Mr. Melvin here. It's a mastodon, folks. It's not an elephant. Is he around? I can't see him. I want to make citizens aware that this is, I know that you're talking about a public hearing. And don't call me out of order, but Scott Joyner did a great job for the time he was here, man. Straight up professional, well-run institution. This is the first of a group of proposals coming down the pike, amending the charter to make it less citizen-friendly. This is the first one. And PA, where's the no party affiliation? Dead. Why? Now, there's a number of implications, but number one, 30 or some odd years ago, this was a Democratic county, and to run for office, you had to be a Democrat. Until Mr. Bush got in office, basically. I don't think Martinez had much of an effect on the county. So then there became an alternative to running as a Democrat. You could run as a Republican. Then the local folks took over both parties and leaving no citizen-driven options. That's what you got here. And there are more coming down the pike. I'll have more to say at the hearing, but everything I've seen so far, modifying the charter, makes it less citizen-friendly, and this is one of them. Thank you.
Bob Dancy also turned in a card to speak on this. Bob?
Yeah, thank you for letting me speak. I apologize for getting that in late. It's on me, but I had full intention of addressing this. I think it's a great idea. I think I would support. I think y'all are leaning in that direction. I think going nonpartisan just makes all the sense in the world. I've had a lot of discussion about this in that Charter Review Committee. For the public, you take the top two and take them to the general election. It doesn't matter who they are or what they are. Anybody can contribute to anybody's campaign. It just makes things so much simpler. I support it. Thank you.
Okay. That concludes the citizens that I had to speak on it. We got one more. Yeah. All right.
I was just surprised to let Bob speak, so since he got to speak, I was because I expected him to be turned down. So, you know, basically, nonpartisan elections puts two candidates forward to the final vote. I just want to make sure that if we do this, that it always goes to the final vote in November, not decided anywhere else. I think it's real important to have the most people there voting for whoever's running for office, and so make sure that that is part of the program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
exactly not the case.
That is not the case.
That's not the case. We're going to run it just like the school board. It's going to be, if there's only two candidates, it's decided in the primary. If there's more than two, right, then the top two, unless one of them gets, was it more than? Yes.
It's done exactly as the school board is, and I noted that issue, and several members of the Charter Review Commission had asked about that specific issue. I did review the Charter Review Commission's legal opinion that they got on that. It was not conclusive.
Just real quick, Heather, explain to me one more time. If there's four people running, if one of them gets over 50%, they win in the primary, or the top two still go to the general?
If one gets over 50%, then it's decided in the primary, is my understanding. Okay. Otherwise, the top two go. I believe if there's like a tie with three, then the top three would go.
In using myself as an example, in my election would have went to the general because I didn't win 50% of the vote. It would have been me and Derek Coward on November.
Right, and your election is a good example for many reasons. And one of the reasons is to show how many less citizens come to the primary. And that, you know, for right or wrong, that's the way it is. And especially in an off-presidential year, as your cycle is, you sometimes have half of the number of people that would be voting in the primary.
In my case, the election would have been more inclusive, right? Because I would have faced on the general election, I would have been on the ballot. In my case, it would have been more inclusive. Now, if there's only two candidates, you're right. So there's two different ways to look at it.
Right. So in your race, there was only two candidates.
Three.
Three? Okay, right. That's correct. So in your race, there were three candidates. If there was no one with 50%,
it would have went on to the thing. Three Democrats, let me be clear. And now we're taking that distinction out. It could have been three candidates, period.
Right. So if you have two nonpartisan candidates in an off-presidential year in a primary,
yep,
the number of voters showing up is historically significantly less.
Agreed.
Whether it's school board, whatever.
Agreed.
And you won't have the representation that you would have had if you are dealing with a general election.
I don't think we can. I mean, we all talked about it and agreed to the concept of taking, if it's just two, take it to the general, but I don't think...
The legal opinion that the Charter Review Commission got from their counsel was inconclusive. It said you may be able to, may not.
That's how attorneys are, you know.
Well, but, I mean, here you're looking for something, you know...
I would just like to see...
I would like something a little bit more concrete before we change the whole election system for Wakulla County.
And I agree.
That's just my opinion.
Well, we're safe doing it like the school board. We know that. You're saying we'd like something more concrete. I think that would be better myself, too, if there's only two candidates to take it to the general. And if we have a legal opinion by the time of the public hearing, I'll support it 100%. How do we get that answer? Who can answer that question?
Well, I don't think there is going to... It's not been a case that's been... It would be in case law. There is not a case on point, so... I mean, if you did it and were challenged and it was struck down, then we'd have to reverse course. I mean, that's your ultimate decision. All that attorneys can give you at this point is you may be able to do it.
Does anybody do it like that? Does any charter
Not that
county? Any nonpartisan have, if there's only two, they go to the general?
I do not know.
I just didn't know if there was any precedents out there. But anyway, that'd be something good.
The school board is the school board. They do their own thing. But
keep in mind, the school board, the chapter under which the school board process is set out is, in Florida statutes, is called nonpartisan elections.
Correct.
So, I mean, to me, that begs the question of whether all nonpartisan elections need to be done that way. Because there's also merit retention of judges is under there as well.
Both municipalities are also nonpartisan.
Municipalities, those are a little bit different, but they probably follow that same statute.
Well, I think you're giving everybody a chance to vote. It's not like we're shutting down anything. If the people do not want to come to the primary, that's their choice. They have the right to vote. They know who the candidates are. Why delay the process?
We delay the process because if we want the majority of people to be there, we know that historically they're not there at the primary. And so I don't know what percentage, for example, Commissioner Merritt, what percentage of the vote did you get out of the total possible vote? I mean, of all the registered voters in the county, 18,000. So
it'd be small.
It would be very small. And that's the point. To allow it to be in the general is a very important thing. We're a county of only 30,000 people. We're like a town. Our whole county is like a town. So and if anything, if this is going to be on for a ballot initiative, I would want it to also, we discussed it about being on for the presidential.
Not all political processes are perfect. I think we'll all agree on that, but somehow we've made it since the Revolutionary War, so.
Right, and it's working right now, so before we go and change it and possibly muddle it up, let's make sure we really are doing what we need to be done and supported by law.
All good discussion items for the public hearing that we're fixing to schedule, right?
I think we could also consider that we've been operating under a partisan system. And if it's true that the vast majority of registered voters in this county are one of those two major parties, and if it's true that we have a very low turnout during those times, it seems like it would be just the opposite of Mr. Taylor's point, that if those parties are not turning out, and there's a concern that there's a citizen candidate that's not a part of one of those two parties, then there's an opportunity for them to turn out when historically the parties are not turning out. So, I mean, there's no way for us to measure. I think the important thing is whether it's a primary or the general, people have the right to vote. They have the right to show up. They have the right to exercise or stay at home. And so
their right to vote.
I mean, I'm fine.
I totally agree with you.
It is their right to vote, and but we know, we have the data, we have the statistics. We know in a primary they're not going to show up. That's the way it is. So if we want to have the most people deciding who their commissioners are, if that's what we want, then it's the general election. If we don't want that, and we want to have a minority electing your commissioner, then you want to go this way. But I'm going to be voting against it.
Okay.
This vote's to have a public hearing, right? I mean, if there's, so at the public hearing, there's still more is gonna be
that's
discussed
just
even further.
schedule
This
that.
is
This is
just to
just
schedule
scheduling.
a
I can't wait for the public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't even made it through the consent item.
We ain't made it through consent yet tonight,
I wanna
guys.
try to move the meeting, I wanna try to move the meeting forward, so if there's no more discussion, we have a motion and a second on this, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, and all the citizens already spoke on it.
And I'm going to be clear, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be voting against even this because the way it is structured right now is what I'm speaking against. So, okay.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor of the motion to hold a public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-1 to hold a public hearing.
Next agenda item that was pulled is tab number 10. This is request approval of a letter of FDOT requesting to reevaluate the proposed realignment plan for U.S. Highways 319 and 98 intersection, the existing intersection at U.S. Highways 319 and 98. And also, I'm going to pass out, Dr. Kessler he has an amended letter that he would like for you guys. The letter is in here that staff has put together.
I'll make a motion to approve the letter you drafted, but adding the word geometric in front of the design part of it, safety and
I
geometric
second
design,
the motion.
and then just leave it at that. I read Howard's there. This is the one you did?
That's the one that Dr. Kessler.
Okay.
Okay,
proposed.
I've got some citizens to speak on this as well, so,
I'm going to be passing down, Mr. Chairman, an original letter that I wrote as a suggestion, sending it to our administrator, thinking he hadn't written the letter yet, but he already had. So this is my suggested letter, which I actually think is the best. And
this is Howard's letter.
and then we're getting the letter that...
To be clear, this is Howard's letter that you just gave us.
Anything you've got in paper is
You've got
Dr.
the both
Kessler's letter.
mine.
Okay.
Okay.
The original and
This
final.
is, yeah, my suggested, and this is how I modified the administrator's letter.
My letter is on the computer. Or our letter, excuse me.
And maybe this would be helpful. I think this represents my amendments to, yes.
So that, the red is the difference between the
So,
two letters?
yeah, the red is what was amended from the letter that's in our package.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second.
So we got a motion, but I've also got 4 citizens that turned in cards to speak on this item, so...
I'd like to
I'm gonna-
also make a friendly amendment, if you would, before calling up the citizens, or do you want me to do it after you call?
If you want to amend your motion?
Well, I propose that we also do a couple of additional things, and that is to copy all of our constitutionals with whatever letter we agree to send out, and to, especially the school board and the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office, and possibly suggest in letter form that they may want to express their opinion on this project as well to FDOT.
It's my understanding that both the school board and the sheriff's department want to stay out of this intersection. They've passed that along well enough that this seems to be a political issue, and they're not interested in being in that. So I will object to putting that in or sending them a letter.
Yeah, this is about safety, Commissioner
No, this
Moore.
is politics.
It is, huh? I guess this is politics and money then.
I don't mind sending a copy to the school board. I don't have any heartburn with that. I don't want to encourage them, whatever actions they want to take, let's let them take them. If we want to send them a copy of this letter, That's fine. That's fine with me. It ain't hurting nothing.
So we have a motion to say, I'm
On the
gonna
record.
let the, four...
Well,
Was that a friendly amendment?
I'm gonna
Jerry
let
has,
the
Jerry had the second.
city commissioners...
I'm
Go ahead.
fine with the friendly amendment. Jerry had the second. If he doesn't want to do it, then
I won't remove my second.
you won't modify it?
No.
Okay. Well, then,
So he's withdrawing it, or?
No.
I don't know how it works at this. Heather, how does it work at this point with the second? The person making the motion agreed to modify it, the person making the second doesn't.
If you, as the motion maker,
Right.
you own your motion right now
Right.
until a vote is called, you could withdraw your motion and make a new motion with the friendly amendment included and see if you get another second. You have a variety
I'll
of
do that.
options.
I'll second it.
This is just to send copies to the school board and the sheriff.
Wait a minute, let's make sure on this geometric design and so forth. Is that
all we're at.
That's a different,
That's different
issue.
All we're doing is taking David's letter and adding geometric in front of design, okay? It's only modification.
Right now, what's your motion?
My motion was to take your letter,
Right.
insert the word geometric in front of design to reflect the minutes, okay? That's it. And then
Okay.
Howard suggested we send copies to the school board and the
Okay.
constitutional.
You clear on that,
That's
Randy?
fine.
Okay.
Brittany, you got that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
You amended your motion and Commissioner Casper seconded it.
Correct.
All right, I'm gonna allow these four citizens to speak, and then we'll continue our discussion. The first citizen is Dana Peck.
Diana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. Just a comment in reaction, I think the commissioner here who's just made $855,000 off this intersection that we're writing a letter about should keep his mouth closed during this debate because he stands to gain more money. This is direct personal interest. The appearance of a conflict of interest is just eating me alive. So think about that. First of all, secondly, the letter I read, as I recall, the commissioner who made this proposal was adamant. That's a big word, but he meant it when he said it, that the proposal was to include his specific wording. And his specific wording had geometric design in it, and his specific wording had spur in it, and his specific wording had lack the support of citizens in it. This letter does not do that. So either you all are going to go with the motion you made, or you're just going to change the ball game in the middle, but be up front with it and say, we're changing and taking back what we really said and what we really meant at the last meeting. The other thing is, when it comes to the minutes with regard to this letter, but all the minutes, the notion that you could, after the meeting, fiddle with the words is horrifying. I am one of those who goes to the minutes. These are public records. They are protected by law. It's criminal to mess with them. And to think that you can tamper and fiddle around with minutes after the meeting is a horrifying thought to me. I use those minutes as a guide. And if they're incorrect, and this county is suffering because of it.
Our next citizen to speak, Mr. Hugh Taylor.
Somebody tamper with the minutes.
Somebody tamper with the
While
minutes?
he's coming up, can we clarify with the clerk's office, are our minutes
Tamper with the minutes.
correct?
Brittany, did you
Well,
tamper
I don't
with the
even want to
minutes?
get into the tampering, but
I don't
are they
think-
correct? Do they reflect what was approved?
They reflected as Randy agreed to it when I read it back to him.
And you read it back during the meeting?
Yes, during the meeting, before the motion was...
But I don't think that the audience can hear, and I listen to the tape, you can't hear me very well.
Right.
because I-
Well, and also, there is no tampering. There is no tampering. Don't know where that came from.
Okay, Mr. Hugh Taylor.
I wasn't gonna comment, but I was disabused by the word political. It appears that politics being what it is, that the powers that be would like to move such an intersection 150 feet to the west of the present intersection to tie in with Jack Crum Road, which has little or no traffic. That anti-political statement was written in a letter to Mr. Scott Golden with DOT in Chipley by Jerry Moore. I would also like to read you, if it would expedite this intersection, I would consider donating the right-of-way to the state. Unconditional donation turns into $1 million nest egg. If I've been concerned about businesses closing and jobs, which Mr. Moore ran on, and I guess it ain't jobs, it's money. So for Mr. Moore's candidacy, because he was an outsider with a political, outside the political realm and needing to push his property, goes from 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds. From donating the land to get his foot in the door to making $1 million or whatever the heck he's gonna make off of it. And nobody's concerned about that. Nobody is concerned, and he doesn't answer when it's commented on. The paper doesn't print a retraction, and it's here in black and white. I mean, I don't know what, but for you to call, pardon me, Mr. Chairman, for Commissioner Moore to call Dr. Kessler's concerns about safety and traffic and movement political is unbelievable, given what some of us know about his activities concerning this intersection. Thank you.
We have Mike Morgan.
Mike Morgan, 3140 Coastal Highway, Crawfordville, Florida. I come back up here again because I tried to come here and not make this political, but the safety issue is there. I know it's there. I'm glad you guys are going to send a letter to them, and maybe we can get DOT to look at it again, because the Jack Crum is a highly traveled road, and the rest of that intersection needs to be addressed, along with the rerouting it or whatever they decide to do with the school. And I'll continue to push as hard as I can to get them to relook at it. And it's not trying not to make it political on my part.
Hey, thank you. Did you speak it? I had a card for you on number 10. Okay. All right. Is there any more discussion amongst Commissioner? You still? Yeah, you did. Come on, Bob. Yeah, I spoke on that one too.
Yeah, I turned in 2 cards.
Yes, sir. And I got one more to speak.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, the simple fact is, and my name is Bob Danzy, the simple fact is, unfortunately it is political. May they be safety issues? I don't know. I have to think DOT has some degree of experience in putting intersections in, because they'll do something right, they may do something wrong, I don't know. But the rest of it, you know, the sad thing is in our little county, I really didn't think anti-capitalism would be such a big deal. But there's a group of people here that just flat don't want progress. They're apparently anti-capitalist at this point because they're attacking Commissioner Moore about making an investment. And then, at some point, the state came to him, and he had the right piece of property. Well, maybe it would have been better if Commissioner Kessler owned that property. It probably wouldn't be a big issue then if it was capitalism. It's sad. This group of people doesn't want anything over at the Springs, and there's simply nothing wrong with that project at the Springs. I mean, the environmental institution is doing it, but no, we're against it, and it's come out recently. People need to know this. It's come out recently that the cat's out of the bag. They've admitted they just don't want any growth. They just don't want our county to grow and prosper. But I got news for you. I got 3 kids growing up, and I got a grandkid and another one on the way. I want commerce to be going on here, and I want to make progress. I want them to be able to stay here and not have to move somewhere else. So everybody should understand there is plenty of politics in this. We can debate about the intersection or not, if it's safe or not. I get that. But the politics are so thick you could cut it with a knife. So what we're going to do is we're going to punish Commissioner Moore because he bought a piece of property and somebody wanted to buy it from him and pay more money than he paid for it. Now, isn't that just amazing? Thank you.
Yeah, our last citizen to speak on this, Mr. Bill Anderson.
Thank you. I want to speak about procedure for the county, and particularly in relation to the minutes and the conversation that just took place a few minutes ago in this room. Going back to the minutes from the last meeting, Dr. Kessler made a motion which was seconded by Randy Merritt, provided certain changes were to be made. You approved it by a 5-0 vote or whatever. Those came up in the minutes a few minutes ago, and it's very clear geometric design and other things were in there. The person that took the minutes said that she asked David Edwards if she could take that word out, and she asked Randy Merritt if she could take that word out, and they said yes. That took place just a few minutes ago regarding a resolution 5 of you passed. One commissioner has no right whatsoever to change that resolution after it's passed. The county administrator does not have that right. That conversation is on the record, took place a minute ago. It should not have happened. In addition to that, someone took out, if you listen carefully to the records of that meeting, that there was public concern and lack of support. The words lack of support were clearly in that, should be in that resolution, and they're not, and they should be in this letter you're going to write to FDOT because that's the resolution you passed. Thank you.
Okay, we have any more discussion amongst commissioners?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit lost about that. Because that's not the impression that I
No,
had.
that was
I
not what
at the
happened
last
at all.
meeting.
It was a very confusing item, and there were several motions and withdrawal and much discussion, and that's why I read the motions back to the board to make sure it was being recorded out.
And that was before the vote?
Yes.
That was prior to the vote, yes.
I don't ever listen to anything Brenda says anyway, so I guess I didn't.
She needs a raise.
But there's no conspiracy here, so we just tried to get it right, so.
And just to recap, the motion that's being made, it was simply that to add geometric, but it's also going to be
That's not, yeah.
the copies are going to be sent to the other constitutionals as Commissioner Kessler amended.
That's right, and let me clarify something. I went back after the meeting, and I asked, when we got ready to write the letter, I asked Brandy, I said, I thought the same thing with geometric design in there, and in fact, I've got an email probably to back that up. But she said, no, this is what Randy agreed to in that exchange. That's the reason I wrote it the way it was written.
Well, here's what happened.
And that, I understand all that, but at the end of the day, I had to put in what that motion was, and that's what the motion I got from the
This is
clerk.
going to be a long meeting. But Howard had 4 bullet points in his motion. I said, I'll support you if we just do the last bullet point. Okay, we agreed to that. A gentleman came up here and asked that we put safety in there, and I said, okay, let's add in, there's public concern, and we want you to examine it for both safety and geometric design. Brenda, am I right?
You're correct.
Okay, that's how I remember it. I didn't say anything about a spur. I didn't say anything about none of that other stuff. We may have talked about it, but that wasn't part of, and if someone doesn't believe me, just look at Dr. Kessler's agenda item, and I specifically took out that last bullet point, number 4, which didn't say anything about any of
I
that
don't even
stuff.
remember a conversation about a spur. If that happened, I totally missed that, but.
Yeah.
But,
you know,
Anyway, everything was done correctly. We made sure I was right with the motion, I understand, because I was understanding, we put exactly in there, if y'all want to change that to geometric, that's what you made the motion here for. Let's move forward.
We ready to be in the revised minutes
That's
and
right.
in the revised
Exactly.
letter?
Exactly,
Geometric.
just the letter.
Are we ready to vote on the letter?
Just one second, please, Mr. Chairman. So, I'm going to be voting for this because I want at least FDOT to see a united board coming forward with this letter. I did go to the CRTPA meeting this afternoon, of which Randy Merritt is the chair, and I did speak to this issue. And if anyone thinks that increasing traffic flow at a high school, putting an intersection there, that the present plan increases the traffic flow from 4,000 vehicles a day to 15,000 vehicles a day is not about safety, I don't know what to think about that. This is all about safety, as far as I'm concerned. And this community should be concerned and get involved and let their voices be heard about this. From 4,000 trips a day in front of a school, it's a lot different. You have a major road in like Leon County in front of Leon High School. That high school was there, that road was there. Well, we have no intersection there right now in front of the high school. And if we do that with the present plan and divert all that traffic there, it's wrong on multiple levels. But the primary level is safety.
All right. Basically, in April of 2010, the Florida Department of Transportation brought the plans forward for the intersection to be where it was, and nobody said any. It brought it to the commission, and nobody said anything about it.
Never brought to the commission. Not while I've been on the commission.
You might have missed that night.
I don't think so.
Okay, Commissioners, I'm going to go, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, send
Aye.
a letter?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, let's move to the last item on the consent
consent
agenda. I see 10 o'clock in our future. This agenda item is tab number 12, request board approval of the revised Wakulla County Airport Master Plan update. This was basically what we did was based upon last board direction at the last meeting. We basically took it, and I sent it to everyone. We took out portions of the I'm trying to remember the
Needs
word.
triggered.
The needs triggered. So therefore, we have the to be followed, projects to be followed will be the environmental feasibility study is first. As I said, that'll determine whether we move forward or not past that. Then the land acquisition section of that, the PD&E study, and runway and taxi engineering realignment, security fencing and gates, airfield signage and lighting, vegetative buffer, and fuel farm. That is what we'll move with at this point in time. That's what it'll be in the master plan.
And I do agree that that matches what we approved at the last meeting. The reason I pulled this is not so much about tab 12, but later in general business, we've got tab 14, which concerns the Tarpine Homeowners Association agreement. And so, you know, I think these kind of run together. My point, and we can discuss that when that comes up under general business, but as I read through that, there's still some holes in that agreement that I'd like to see us fill in a little bit. Yes, we've got an agreement, I think, from some of the members of Tarpine. I'm not certain, based on the agenda item, whether or not Tarpine has held a homeowners association meeting and the homeowners association has bought into that. I would like to see that presented to their homeowners association and come back with minutes letting us know that they've agreed to those terms. Also, that agreement addresses 80%, which that may be a fine number. I'm not contesting that, but we've also got another 20% there that's not dealt with in the agreement, and we also don't have any agreement with the owner of the hangars there. And so, to me, I'd just rather us. You know, my plan has not changed, but I'd rather see us, let's gather all these facts, let's get all the information. So as far as tab 12, I would make a motion just to simply table that
I second the motion.
to later meeting.
And we talked about this earlier, there's no time crisis, so that's fine with me. And to
If
get,
that's what y'all so choose, that's fine, yeah.
get things ironed out with the homeowners, because I don't know if what you're saying, Ralph, is if the homeowners don't play ball, then you're not gonna support the master plan at all, or would you just need to reconsider what you were?
I say let's put all the facts on the table and then we make a decision.
So we have a motion and a second to table this, is that what?
Till when? Till the next meeting?
Until,
Well, I think, and what Ralph, Commissioner Thompson will say, until we have the other elements worked out
Right.
and bring them all together at one shot.
I don't wanna miss
I
any
have-
possible grant opportunity.
I have got 3
And that-
citizens
that
that
I-
want to speak on this.
We're okay on that.
But that could be at the next meeting, we have,
Yeah.
we have
That
a
could be
month
at the
to
next
go,
meeting. Mhm.
right? Okay.
Yeah, I've got 3 citizens to speak on this. So before we vote, let's see, Steve Fultz. Okay, we got Richard Shepherd. And Bill Anderson. Okay.
So the motion is to table it until the next board
No,
meeting in
no,
July?
it's table it until he gets the agreement worked out with Tarpine.
Oh, okay.
Firmly.
Tarpine
Tarpine
also
and
with-
the hangers.
Right, and the
And there's
hangers.
an agenda item later that, specifically on Tarpine, that we're gonna talk about it separately anyway.
Right, and great, and if we can sort of give direction to expedite that so that we can get past this item?
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, so if we don't have any more discussion, we have a motion second. All in favor to table this?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Through the agenda, through the consent.
Wow, good deal.
That handles all of our consent items that we had pulled for discussion. We don't have any planning and zoning items tonight. Our first order of general business is to request board confirmation of the appointment of Mr. Harold Ross as Veteran Service Officer. David?
I make a motion to approve.
Harold, could you please stand up, please? Harold, sorry to put you through this meeting this far.
Welcome to Wakulla County. You may want to withdraw.
We look forward to having, he's already started and,
Welcome on board.
so anyway.
Welcome.
And also his hours are, let me announce that real quick.
We don't hire Florida State people. You don't support Florida State? You better watch that answer.
Be careful.
You can play, I would play.
Okay, I'll support that.
Okay, his hours will be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 12, Tuesday and Thursday from 1 to 5. That's 20 hours a week. That way we got all week, full week coverage.
And you got mornings and afternoons.
Mornings and afternoons, that's right. That's
3
right.
days in the morning, 2 days in the
That's
afternoon.
right. Every other
All 5
day,
days
every other
covered.
day it's in the mornings, and then Tuesday and Thursday is 1 to 5.
Mhm.
And the veterans are already putting him through his paces, because every time I pass him, when he's there, he has someone in the room and he's working.
Very good, thank you.
We have a lot of veterans in the county, and we're very supportive of our veterans, and I just thank you, Mr. Ross, I know you're going to do a great job and appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion made and second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, our next item is concerning the Tarpine Homeowner Association Airport Maintenance Agreement. David?
I'll make a motion to table this one also, David.
Second.
so you Get it worked out with them. And I think specifically what I talked to David about is, let's let them get with their homeowners association and make sure we have buy-in from them, from the group as a whole, and I think that's pretty important.
Okay, I just
That's
want
fine, yeah, go ahead.
I have got 2 citizens, but I want to ask you want to speak on this or wait till we table. I've got Steve Fultz and Richard Shepherd. Are you wanting to speak? Okay.
Steve Fultz, 35 Monocoop Circle. I'm president of the Tarpine Homeowners Association. We have taken a vote. We have duly approved this up to a particular level, so I feel very comfortable. We have the minutes from the meeting. So the negotiations have gone very, very well. We've been back and forth. I think it's very fair. I absolutely agree that we need to get all of the other kinks worked out with respect to other contributors to the airport. So I'm fully supportive of what you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, David, do you know about that vote they took?
No, I haven't been privy to that.
Okay, you'll get all that straight.
Yeah, and and I think we also need to, Heather brought up a good point as well, is just send out a notice to everybody involved here. Just send a note, here's what the deal is, and here's the ramifications if things don't come through.
And the
et
reason
cetera.
why being, if for whatever reason the homeowner association backs out, we're going to assess their property, and they're going to have to pay for it.
That's
so
right.
I think they should be aware of that.
That's right.
I have one other citizen, Richard Shepherd. That's both my citizens to speak.
Richard Shepard, I live in Tarpine, and, well, if we're going to bring this up, I request board approval on it. Tarpine generates about $72,000 a year for the coffers of the county, and we get nothing in return for it. We pave our own roads, we maintain our own roads, we do all our own maintenance on the grass, and we also do our own signage. We absolutely get nothing from the county whatsoever for this project, or for this property. And now you're asking us to put in to support the, I think it was Mr. Kessler, or Mr. Moore's proposition, because the county didn't have any money to do it, so we're going to fund it. I don't have any problem with that, as long as the rest of the people in the county know that they should pay their fair share too. And as I mentioned to Mr. Edwards at one time, everybody that lives on the river should pay an access fee to the river. If we have to pay for our boats, we have to pay for everything else. I think this should be fair. Thank you.
Okay, that's all the citizens had to speak on it. The motion was to table this. Was that what it was?
Yep.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's tabled.
All right, the next agenda item is tab number 15. This requests board direction of application for forgiveness of code enforcement lien, CEB LR 010.
Make a motion to reduce it to $3,849, which is the amount the county's out of pocket.
I second the motion.
We have a motion made and seconded. I have one citizen to speak on it, Mr. Hugh Taylor. You can, okay, Mr. Hugh Taylor's going to pass. That's the only citizen I had. So we have any discussion amongst commissioners?
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify, who owes the money right now?
The current property owner is the bank. It's New York Mellon, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And their representative is Altisource.
And again, the person that owns it now, that has cleaned the property up, was not the person that caused the problem. So they inherited it. And I think the main thing is to get it cleaned up and fixed and not cost us taxpayers any money to do it, which I believe this does.
Okay, so, and I'm not clear then. I thought it was said that Mellon Bank owns this property right now. Okay, and you're saying that there's another person that's involved.
Well, the agenda item, when I read it, it said the person that owns it now was not the one that caused the original condition.
That's correct.
The lien predates the bank acquiring the property.
So when we're saying in these minutes, or these notes for the agenda, that the person that owns it now, that person is Mellon Bank, is that correct?
Commissioner, there's a representative of Mellon Bank here. If it's okay with the commissioners, I'll ask him to come up and answer questions.
Well, I'd like to speak to the attorney first and ask some of these questions.
That is my understanding. That's what the agenda item says, is that the current owner of the property is New York Mellon Trust.
Right, so that lends to the question of what we're doing here. You know, it's a bank. They have acquired this property. That lien was on it. You know, what are we really doing? And have we reached an agreement with this bank that if we say lower this amount, they're going to accept it? And I have all kinds of other questions that flow from
No,
that.
right now what your ordinance requires is that if they make an application for a lien reduction, there's various factors. It goes to the code board. They make a recommendation. It comes to you all. This is not in a litigation context where I have any authority to negotiate with them.
I guess I see your point, Howard, is in this case it's owned by a bank, which in the past have typically paid the entire lien amount without flinching an eye, basically, right?
No, not always.
And have we lowered lien amounts for banks before when they bought property and cleaned it up?
I don't know that we have or we haven't, but I fail to see how, whether a bank owns it, whether somebody else owns it.
I share your same benefit. It could be a business, it could be a charity, it could be whatever, and just because it's a bank doesn't mean we should stick it to them.
I agree. That is not part of the procedures in your ordinance right now to look at the character of the owner.
This that we're doing follows the consistency of what we've done with the recent ones, right? We are recurring all of the county's money.
Yes, historically, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Historically, what the county has done is, since in the past few years, since we've been getting a lot of these and we've been trying to clean these up, just note this is not one of our foreclosures. this is independently came forward from the property owner. But how you've handled those historically is agreeing to go down to where the county's hard costs are and trying to recover your hard costs, but going no further than that.
I understand.
So additional questions, or you want to have the citizens speak and then, or is there no citizen speaking?
Well, Mr. Taylor said he's going to pass his
Okay.
time, and he's indicated he wants to speak now since he's
So we're in
turned in
discussion
the
now?
card. We're in discussion.
Okay.
But I'll go ahead, Commissioner Kessler.
Oh, go ahead. I'll speak after you if you want me to.
I just wanted to clarify with the attorney and also for those at home that what's being presented, that the county at the price that we would be quoting, the county will be recurring all of its hard cost, and we will be consistent with what we've been doing with other property owners.
Okay, and when we say hard costs, does that not include the attorney's time, staff time, et cetera? Is that not in there?
That's in there.
That's
It is in there, that's great. Okay, great. So I can certainly live with that. What happens if we reduce it and the bank, for whatever reasons, doesn't want to pay it?
Then the lien stays, and at some point in the future, if you want to foreclose it, you can foreclose on it.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Okay. I'm going to ask Mr. Taylor to come on up and speak. He had turned in a card.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. My point in not wanting to speak was assuming that the owner was an individual or a family. You have banks ignoring all kinds of properties that they own in this county. If the fine is the fine, fine them. The last time I paid a fine, I didn't get a break. And you'll see, as a matter of course, there's some confusion with servicers and this and that and the other, but as a matter of course, banks and servicing corporations are letting these properties deteriorate. I thought what happened was they sold it to an individual without disclosing the fact that there was a, $9,000 lien on it, something like that, wasn't there? The fine is the fine. You say run the place like a business, that's business-like. The fines you're forgiving could have paid for your code enforcement department that you eliminated. You know? And they could be out finding you more bank-owned properties. It ain't pity the poor banker, Mr. Moore. They could be out finding you more bank-owned properties in terrible condition that needed attention, and you could clean up. You talk about a real estate boom, go clean up some of these decrepit properties around that are bank-owned by out-of-county individuals taking advantage of foreclosure situations and not paying attention to the maintenance then of the property they own. And the woods around here are full of them. That's all. But the Mellon Bank, they don't have the money? Bull.
That's the only citizen we have to speak. Is there any more discussion?
Yeah, you know, I don't think it's a matter of, I've rethought this, I don't think it's a matter of sticking it to a bank. But I think we as a county have situations where we're able to recoup our hard costs. And then we have situations where we're not able to recoup our hard cost and we're stuck with that whole tab. And then we have situations where we have an entity with the resources to pay their fine. And if we don't collect from that entity, we're going to be in the hole. So I'm going to be voting against it.
I'm just going to try to be consistent. I'm gonna try to treat everybody the same.
We need to be consistent. From my recollection, the only time that we have not recovered the hard costs since I've been on this board is when a mistake was made and we did something out of sequence or we didn't notice the right person. You know, anytime we've had the ability to collect the hard costs, I think we've consistently done that, and I think we need to stick with
And
that.
I think there've been several cases where the bank has paid the full lien, is that correct, without protesting it?
Yes.
I mean, in a litigation context, we have,
I mean, some of
We
them
have
just
more
come right out and
leverage.
pay it, though, right? They
oh,
just-
and I'm sure they do. That would be a question for staff, not me. I don't.
That's my understanding, is that we basically, for lack of a better word, make a profit off those. So I just want to be consistent. That way I don't have to remember what I did for this person or that person.
Now, you did, the board has discussed, not taken action on, saying we want to get hard costs plus 10% plus. You have discussed that. You've never given any alternative direction to
Right.
staff. So right now, we're still presenting these things to you as recovering hard costs, but if you want to change that direction, we can.
I think basically the fact that we have been doing what we're doing today has been moving things forward much faster. We're in our code enforcement. It's working much better because of what we're doing now.
I agree with you, Commissioner Moore. Not only are we getting in fines, clearing up old liens and foreclosures, but additionally, staff has noticed that because of those actions, properties are coming into compliance quicker, and people are paying off their fines when they're small because they know at some point they could be foreclosed.
And the whole point of this exercise is to get whoever's violating the code to clean up their yard. And if that's the end result, I think, haven't we done our job? I mean, that's what the whole purpose of this is.
But we also want to try to keep our head above,
I agree.
right? And I think that proposition of if you don't want to treat these individuals differently, those that can and those that cannot, then at least we should consider putting a, whatever it is, 10% above on that, because we're going to end up in the hole. No matter how many of these hard costs we collect, we're going to end up in the hole.
Remember, Dr. Kessler, too, I just said that there are some that pay the full lien amount and don't even try to protest it. So those are above the hard costs. So,
And I agree with you, Dr. Kessler, but also, you know, what we've done is shifted philosophies here, and it seems to be working. We're collecting more and more. We're getting more money in versus nothing. And so we were able to reduce these down and start getting money flowing, because, yeah, we had a large outstanding balance out there that people owed, but until we got it down to a manageable area, then all of a sudden we started getting cash in the door.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say cash, but money's in for fines once we did. So you're right on one hand. On the other hand, at least there are some actions flowing and things are getting corrected, and fines are being paid, so now as they've been lowered.
So one more question is, what is the history on this? What is it, 2012 that this thing was? I mean, it still seems like, is this part of the backlog that we're trying to clear?
Yes, sir. This is part of the backlog, and we are moving much faster.
So
now.
hopefully we won't be in these situations where the amounts are accruing. 'Cause
that's what the real problem is. They drag on so long.
You'll
Who's going to
still
pay
be-
us?
To be in those situations, y'all. That we're never going to not have these liens, and we're never going to not have liens that are accruing, because there's some properties we can't pursue, period. Homestead property, if there's a code violation and a lien goes on homestead property, it's going to sit there because there's nothing we can do about it. So there's always going to be those, and while we're cleaning these up, and we've brought in, I don't even know how many thousands of dollars, but tens of thousands of dollars just this fiscal year, since you authorized us to go forward, you know, and while we're trying to stay on top of it, and we're even going to be bringing forward a property to clean up and put on the assessment under the new process this year. There's still always going to be, if you look at your balance sheet, there's always going to look like there's a lot of money out there that's recoverable, and it's just not, because most of it's homesteaded.
I think it's also important to note that the citizen that owned this property, and I assume the offending person, died. And so, you know, there was a probate that ensued, there was a foreclosure that ensued, so let's not give the impression that Bank of Mellon just swept in and saw an opportunity and they're turning a profit. They invested in this and they're taking a loss. When these foreclosures happen, very seldom is the bank made whole on that. So, you know, I don't think there's any need to vilify them. I think we need to be consistent. If we're going to say you've got the ability to pay, so you pay, or we're going to apply that same standard to our wealthy citizens, I think we just need to be consistent.
I agree.
I agree with us being consistent, and I'm also in agreement that we are recurring all of our hard costs, including the attorney time.
So would we entertain putting a 10%?
Not at this point.
No, not at this time.
Now, I would entertain, Howard, if the board agrees to a procedure that the board votes on and everybody's applied from that date forward consistently, then yeah, I'd entertain talking about that. But not just arbitrarily.
I would disagree with you, Randy. I wouldn't.
We can't agree on everything.
Okay. Do we have any more discussion amongst commissioners? Do we have a motion and a second? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Tab number 16, request board approval of a resolution requesting that the Florida Department of Transportation utilize the design techniques of Chapter 21.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made and second. I have one citizen to speak on it. Chuck S.
David, briefly, while he's coming up there, this is the way 319 is going to be four-laned in the Crawfordville area.
That's right. We're requesting.
Louis is
that's right.
requesting it be more landscaping, sidewalks, urban type instead of a
And
high-speed road.
business friendly.
Business
versus-
friendly.
That's
Chuck,
right.
could we just put you on the calendar as a no, and we could avoid the time?
Chuck may be for this. You can't ever tell.
Fellas,
Go ahead,
he doesn't
Chuck.
understand this thing. I'm I'm actually for this, okay? Because this builds a community, a town center, and will enhance the town center. So I think it's an important thing to do. We need to start building a community in Crawfordville that enhances our community, and that's important. I'm not against. I'm in favor of strip malls. I am in favor of a smart design on the interior of our community. Thank you.
And this is just a letter to DOT asking them to do this.
Yes. Also,
Their choice.
I have a letter of support here from the Chamber of Commerce supporting you guys in this effort.
Okay, we have any motion made and second. We have any more discussion amongst commissioners? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're going to move on to our commissioner agenda items. Mr. Kessler, you've got a couple. You've got, now this you've got, is that, you've got 4 different items, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
All right. So this first item is when we have a workshop and we discuss whatever we discuss, and sometimes we come to a consensus at that workshop. What's happening right now is that when we approve the minutes, it's rolled into that, and we basically, I don't know what the word is, certified, it's not the right word I'm looking for, but we basically approved that action. And what I'm proposing is that so that the citizens can follow the bouncing ball and not have to read through the 1,000 pages we have on agendas, that it either appear as a separate item on the consent agenda or as a separate standalone item of what action the board is going to be taking.
Richard, can I talk to Howard about this before a motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
I talked to David about this earlier. Howard, I understand what you're getting at, but maybe a way to do it that'd be easier on staff and not have to rehash agenda items is to say, from now on when we do minutes from workshop, if there is board direction given, that needs to be clearly spelled out in the minutes at some point, and maybe the end, the board direction was to do this. That way it's real clear, there's no question about it, here's what the board direction was, and that way it's not a separate agenda item. It'll still be approved on the minutes, and like you just did earlier, you can pull the minutes and say this is not the board direction.
Well, see, as a citizen looking over our agenda, they would see approval for the minutes. Are you suggesting any actions would be in the title of that minute?
That's fine. I mean, I think what's hard for them is have to make a whole new agenda item, so it could I don't know the mechanics of this, but say the thing was approve the directions, approve the minutes from the workshop on such and such and such, directing the staff to do this. And just make it more clear instead of making it a whole separate item.
So how would the
I agree
citizens
with
see
Randy.
that?
Huh?
How would the citizens see that without having to go and read
In
the...
the
They would
title?
have to go to the bottom and say, here, what was decided on this.
Couldn't the title be approval of minutes and providing staff direction?
To do
And then
this.
in the item itself, we could
Okay.
outline what this,
Yeah.
because the staff direction could be long.
Okay. So the minutes, the title of the agenda item in the consent agenda would say, approve the minutes and provide staff direction. But then in the body of the consent item, which we're not making a new consent item, we had to have one anyway to approve the minutes, then you spell out what that direction was in the body of the...
Of the minutes of the
agenda
workshop.
Of the agenda item for the consent. Right? Is that...
Of the agenda item that approved, and the minutes are the attachment.
Howard, if you look at tab 1 on consent, for example, if you could...
But that's our actual board meeting.
That's the actual board.
Okay.
If you look at tab 1, it has statement of issue, options, recommendations, attachments. The statement of issue would be revise, approve minutes, and approve board direction to do whatever, right? That would satisfy what you want. It'd be spelled out clearly, but they wouldn't have to do a whole new agenda item.
Do it exactly like we do our regular meeting. You're right, that makes sense.
Just put it in, you understand what I'm saying? Put it in the body of the agenda item. It'd just be an extra sentence or something, so it wouldn't be a lot of...
If there's clear direction.
If there's board direction.
Only if there's board direction. I just want
Clear
to make
direction.
it...
Clear direction.
Well, we can certainly try it that way, and I could make a motion to that effect. If you all understand what you...
They're just changing their procedure, the way they do things slightly. Now, like a budget workshop, this would be a non-issue because we don't give
Correct.
specific direction. Only in cases like the airport where we said, do the minimum necessary, blah, 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 with fuel, and only in cases like, when was another workshop where we gave specific direction? They don't really have, most of the times we're just talking about stuff. Airport.
And I'm willing...
Airport.
Okay, so that's the motion,
And I'll second that.
and we'll try it out and see how it works.
Okay.
Okay.
So let me clarify. So under consent, we're going to have an item that says approve staff direction of workshops? Is that right?
Let's, on the agenda we have right now.
Actually, in the
hit
body
tab
of
one.
that item, I think.
On tab 1, we have a agenda request to approve the minutes, okay? Now, in that agenda request from now on, Jessica's going to put, if there was board direction, that will actually be in the agenda request itself.
That's to approve the minutes from the workshop.
Yes.
Correct.
So if anybody has heartburn with that and said, no, that's not what the board said, they can pull that consent item and say, this is what the board really said.
Okay.
And then it's also codified, because it's in the agenda item itself.
Tab 2 was a workshop, so, I mean, same
Yes. Now,
difference.
What's going to change today is that in the agenda requests and in the statement of issue, if there was board direction given, that will now be spelled
That's
out.
fine.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's good.
Okay.
Good
Do
for you,
we have any more discussion?
If Jessica's happy, I'm happy.
Yes.
All right, so we got a motion second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Commissioner Kessler?
Thank you. Oh, well, I want to close down this consent and go back to... Okay, so this deals with the workshops, and sometimes we start a workshop at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Still, I contend it makes it very difficult for a lot of our citizens who are working, and especially in Tallahassee, to get down here for these workshops and not have to take off from work. So I know we've been putting them back to the Mondays now instead of using the Thursdays, but I would like the board to consider at least going back to Thursdays and put it at 6 p.m.
Is that in the form of a motion?
That is.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion, no second, so it dies for lack of a second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Third item is an item I've appropriated from Commissioner Merritt, and that is to ask the board to vote to set the effective date. If there is a vote to rescind the present wetlands ordinance, that effective date would be the day after the election, November 5th, 2014.
I'm not going to second it, Howard, but I will talk to you about it under discussion. I don't know if somebody else is going to second it.
I'm not second.
Okay, we had a motion, we don't have a second. I'm going to move the business forward, but there are some citizens that did put in cards to speak, but what I want to ask those citizens is if you still would like to speak, to just fill out a card to speak at the citizens to be heard section at the end.
If they haven't already spoken.
If they haven't already spoken at the beginning. I want to move the meeting forward because we have lack of a second, but at the same time, any of those citizens that did want to fill out a card, just fill out one for citizens to be heard. If you didn't speak at the first citizens to be heard, and you can speak on the issue. Okay. All right.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Chairman. My last agenda item is requests the board to develop or consider having staff develop a county policy relating to how we handle possible violations when our staff is engaged in their normal duties. So if they're out doing something for the county and they come across something that could be a state or federal violation, some guidelines of how they should or should not be responding.
You're not going to believe this, Howard, and I hate to even say this myself, but this issue is so large, we may want to have a workshop to talk about this, because, is she going to report me for speeding? That's a violation of state law. It's a very complicated issue. I think I understand what you're trying to accomplish, but I'm not going to second it right now. I would like to talk about it. I think maybe if you want to schedule a workshop before a board meeting, that we could talk about this a little bit, because it's very complicated. And we start getting staff involved in reporting, being tattletales, not, you know what I'm saying?
I don't even want to go there, Randy. I don't want to even go there.
Well, for example, we have a developer who's digging out a borrow pit, okay? Our staff goes there, looks at it, says, well, there may be county stuff here, but is there state stuff? How does the state know about this? So what is our staff? What is the obligation of our staff? How should our staff be acting or not acting? I think just the general policy or guidelines would be helpful to them.
Just puts them in a very, very bad spot. So Louis out looking at something for a rezoning, and he notices somebody's dumping trash in their backyard. Now, is he going to be compelled to then report that person, or because they're violating state health laws? Or if he sees they don't have a lid on their septic tank, is he compelled, or is Summer compelled to report it if she sees it?
And then if she doesn't report it and somebody sees her there, then she's in trouble for not reporting.
It has a lot of, I understand what you're trying to get at, but it has a lot of unintended consequences for the employees. Now, maybe if it was a code enforcement officer out doing their legal duty, if James is on a call and he sees an open septic tank next door. You all right, Chuck?
You okay, Chuck?
You all right?
If it, possibly if it relates only to code enforcement officers, maybe, but just to say all county employees, and that includes Brenda right here. Brenda, she might have to go report somebody.
Well, that's what I'm not spelling out, and I think that's what needs to be looked at. Right now, when you look at the issue of code enforcement, then code enforcement involves both our planning and zoning department and our building department right now. So how do these people perform? If someone comes across something that someone's dumping oil in the ground and they're on a, what do they do?
In lieu of a second or a workshop at this point, would you mind getting with James and maybe talk it over with him and see if, because he's the one that does it every day, and see if there's what issues they have or what problems.
Louis also.
Louis? All right. Sorry, Louis.
We have
you mind doing that? They might have legitimate concerns that are fine.
We have enough trouble of people who are not identify themselves turning people in, and we got that coming up on our meeting tonight. Now all of a sudden we're trying to put our staff in the same position.
No. We're not trying to do anything. What I'm asking is Howard to get with James and Louis, and if there may not be an issue, but I'm not prepared to vote on this tonight.
I'd be happy to get with them. Do you want to table this to July?
We're not going to second it.
Hmm?
We're not going to second it.
Yeah, I'll just not second it, Howard. That way but if you bring it back and there's a the consensus between you guys.
Well, I can't bring
always
it back, I can't bring it back for 6 months now.
No,
You can't
is
just
it-
withdraw your motion?
You haven't been on the
Wait,
defeated side.
you haven't been voted down.
I certainly have been on the defeated side if you guys don't second it.
If
It
it
fails for
doesn't-
lack of a motion.
Just withdraw your motion, Howard.
Who made the motion?
So let me have some help from the county parliamentarian.
The motion? Okay. You can bring it back with the chairman's permission.
Okay.
Are you going to give him permission? If you're not, then I'm going to vote to table it.
If he wants to bring it back.
Yes. Are you going to let him bring it back immediately?
Not immediately.
So he can't bring it back next board meeting? I'll make a motion to table it till July then. And if you have something, but don't bring back something. You know what I mean?
No. I'll meet with Louis, I'll meet with
You know what
Melvin.
my position typically is. You know what I'm saying?
This was asking staff to develop it, not for me to develop it. I'll be happy to meet with Louis, and I'll be happy to meet with James and get their input. But I was looking for staff direction on this. I wasn't...
Let's first identify if there is a problem, is what I'm trying to
Okay.
say. So my motion is tabled till July.
Okay,
We have a
second.
so we have a motion made and seconded to table this to July. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No citizens?
Well, back up. We have Chuck, but Chuck's getting bad about bringing
Concurring?
cards up at the last minute, so.
All right. Aye. I voted aye.
It passed.
It passed. You got that, Brandy?
Brenda, did you get that?
She's going to pull her hair out.
Before we go forward, I just want to
Randy,
please
did you
remind...
get that geometric design in that?
Commissioner Castor, hold on one second. I want to remind those that's here, for future meetings, I know a lot of those that's here, that to please be sure that you filled out a speaker card ahead of the agenda item. I'm an advocate for trying to allow people. I'm for people speaking. I want people to speak, but we do have a process and a procedure that we try to follow to move this meeting forward. And I would like to ask, that as we go forward, even in future meetings, just please be sure that if you want to speak on an agenda item, to please fill out the card before we begin discussion on the item. Thank you. Okay, so that's all of yours, Commissioner Castor. All right, next we have Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you. Currently, our building department and the planning department are operating our code enforcement department, so we are still investigating code enforcement complaints. I learned recently that 95% of the complaints do come in to the county anonymously, and about 50% of those are determined to be without merit. So it's a substantial drain on time and resources in a department that's already stretched thin and has other jobs to do. I think that we could eliminate some of that. Currently, we have no ordinance that directs us to take anonymous complaints. There's no written policy. The only place that I've been able to tell that it's in writing is it's simply on the form where the complaint is taken. But other than that, there's been no policy for that. The website where complaints can be registered do not even prompt for a name, so that's probably another good reason why a lot of them come in anonymously. And so I'm going to make a motion to direct staff to revise code enforcement policy to no longer allow anonymous code enforcement complaints, and direct staff to change our code enforcement forms and website to require the name, address, and phone number or email address of everyone who makes a code
Second.
enforcement complaint.
Sorry, Jerry.
Okay, we have a motion made and second. I've got several citizens turning in cards to speak on this issue, and we'll let them speak, and then we'll discuss it amongst ourselves. First citizen is Bob Dancy.
Yeah, my name is Bob. Forgive me for my voice tonight. I had a little bit of a cold. I meant to say that earlier. You see, at the risk of possibly offending staff, looking back on Commissioner Kessler's item that he had, it relates to this, so I'm not going back to that. I don't know that they ought to be in a position where they could even turn in a complaint just to protect them. And I truly look at it as that it's to protect them. So I guess if they had a bad enough complaint, they could get their wife or husband to do it. But the idea here, I think Commissioner Thomas has, is will save the county money. I know y'all are probably going to make this point, but tons of money will be saved, and you have to be serious. You can't just be mad at your neighbor or mad at some guy down the street. You have to be serious. So I want to keep it short. I know we got speakers. I support you, but at the same time, when y'all do that workshop or whatever you did, maybe even consider staff not being put in that position, not even being allowed to be in that position. Thank you.
I'm gonna go through next is Mr. Victor Lambu.
Vic Lambu, 272 Pine Lane. Let me make it clear I'm speaking for myself and not any organization. You did say that 50% are without merit, so that I assume means that 50% of them was with merit, if you made that breakdown. I know that anonymous complaints are, well, they just take time, and people can laugh at them and so forth. I know one of you speakers here before, that I think he's still here, had a complaint about he was harvesting, or he was growing sea cows in his garden pool, which obviously is impossible. But if you're going to have 50% of the plaints with merits, I think you want to listen at that. I think you should give your staff the opportunity to ignore those that are obviously bonus, have no merit to it. But there is times that people cannot give their names. Either they work for someone, or for some other reason they be retaliated against. And if you have these of 50% of them by Mr. Thomas's calculation, I think they should be considered by the county. Certainly throw out the ones that have no merit. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Steve Cushman.
Thank you, Steve Cushman, Panacea. I'm actually on the code board. I brought this motion before the code board in, I believe, the meeting before last. We passed it 4-1 to actually remove the anonymous complaint procedure. And the reason that is Ralph is right, about 50% of them are without merit. There's about 65 to 68% that are called in anonymously. That's where the thing really goes awry. Just like Vic just said, you get retaliation. Anonymous gives you retaliation, because anybody can call in on anybody for any reason. There was an article in the paper about this last week, and James and I had discussion about it before I brought it to the code board, and it cost us $45 to $60 every time we go out on complaint. Taking out the anonymous complaint procedure will not alleviate someone calling up, hanging up the phone. If it's a issue that James or the building department deems necessary, they'll go out and they'll still look at it. But it still costs the taxpayers money. We just heard Dr. Kessler say that, the code board needs to start taking care of itself, and we maybe not had to fire people. Well, this is another way to do that. It's saving money. Just like with the reduction of liens, it wasn't about reducing liens to give somebody a break. It's reducing liens because there's a probability, just like the one you just reduced to $3,800, that bank will pay now. What do we have to lose if they don't? We're still going to file a lien. But even with liens, we come back and we have to look at the amount of the value of that property. If it cost us $1,300 to try to recoup property that's worth $25,000, and we're already $3,000, $9,000 in it, whatever we're in it, we're not going to ever recoup our money. So it's just this cat and mouse game back and forth of trying to make the code board at least break even. And like Commissioner Merritt said, we get some of them that come in and pay off. We get some of them that don't. But this is just another step in the right direction to stop a lot of the frivolous complaints that are filed, neighborhood disputes, which I've been an advocate of not having a code board set up that's set up there for neighborhood dispute mediation. That's not our goal. Our goal is to clean up this county and make sure it's safe for everyone and its health. And we can't do that with anonymous complaints because we filled a lot of our time with complaints that don't even exist when we get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hugh Taylor?
Hugh Taylor, 1357 Martin Luther King Road, where there's a mastodon in the yard. Since I got mentioned and Rudlow got mentioned, I wanted to stick around and comment. The ours, I don't know what, ours is moot. We've been vetted and re-vetted with every administration, planning and zoning and building department. I mean, but I'm telling you, and I've been my wife and I both have been the victim of anonymous complaints, both local, state, and federal. And I don't appreciate, they've all, nothing's happened except the waste of taxpayer money on either a local, a state, or federal level. But believe me when I say there has to be a provision for anonymous complaints. And I probably had more. I know probably over the past 30 or 40 years, Jack's probably had more just because of Jack. Just because of speak out, get a visit. That's been the situation around here for an awful long time. But I would live with that with the idea that somebody was protected, had a protective, shield of anonymity around a legitimate complaint. I don't know why. We were in the paper, but and I don't know the percentages. I'm meeting with Mr. Melvin. I guess he's gone. Friday, yeah, to go over numbers. I don't know the percentages, so I can't quote woof numbers. But they handle ours because they've been there. Thank you very much. Clunk. No problem. But the importance of someone afraid, and believe me, if we didn't have that mastodon sitting in the yard, I would be very, very afraid. But there's real fear here. If you can come up with a way to alleviate the fear, my thing was, don't talk to Ralph, talk to me. I'll put it in under my name. I don't care. But there has to be a way to let people concerned with behavior to complain to the sheriff, building or homestead violations, complain to P&Z or the building department, that provides some safety net for them. If you lived in this county for any appreciable length of time, you know what, I was the one with the manatee complaint. Cost the state of Florida about $5,000 to investigate that complaint. Was it an anonymous complaint? It was a bogus complaint? And we had lumber stacked in our yard. We were building something. Got a complaint about that. Luther Council, when he was building official, he came. Lindsay Stevens came. You know, we've been vetted and re-vetted. You know, anybody's invited out. But there has to be the intimidation factor and the fear factor. There has to be some way to get around that. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Chuck Hess, followed by Dana Peck.
Chuck Hess, 112 Lake Ellen Circle. You know, I depend on my community and my leaders and the people that work for the county to follow the rules and enforce the rules that are applied by the county. So y'all make decisions, y'all set a playing field for the people of the community to play on, and I expect the rules to be followed. And I expect everybody that works for the county to enforce those rules, and if I see somebody breaking those rules, I want to be able to call and complain without having fear of retaliation. And if you pass this way and go forward like this, then you have a suppression of those rules being enforced because of the fear of retaliation. I think that's a wrong idea. Yes, 50% of the calls might be illegitimate, but 50% are legitimate. And it's, you know, everybody should be playing on the same field. You know, if it's an illegitimate call, you go out, the guy your inspector looks at it and says, "Oh, there's nothing here," and drives away. But if it's a legitimate call, then the rules are enforced, and that's what we want. We want to have everybody playing on the same field. And, you know, you have it in any sports you're in, we should have it for all the rules of our community. That's what's important. Thank you.
Next speaker is Dana Peck.
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. Have you really thought about this? I mean, you're hearing it tonight, but think of that little old Panacea lady, and she lives next to Animal House, and they're doing all kinds of things over there that are code enforcements, making her life miserable. She goes next door, she says, "I sure would appreciate it if you clean up or do whatever it is right," and they tell her to mind her own business and go back in her hole. Now you've put this little old lady in a position of saying, how do I live with this? Can I make a complaint to the county? If I put my name down, are they going to terrorize me and make my life more miserable than it already is? Should I just shut up and live with the filth? My hunch is that in code enforcement you have employees who can separate pretty quickly the bogus from the legit. And I bet those employees know how to ask questions that do get to the truth and help sift out the problems. But you're talking tonight about passing a law in this county to where no one, including the little old Panacea lady, can say something's really wrong here without putting her name on the line. I don't think you want to do that if you think about it.
Richard, can I ask James to come up here? And let me just give you...
Is there another card yet?
I've got
Oh,
one
I'm
more
sorry.
card, if you don't mind. This is Bill Russell. Then after this card, we'll...
Okay, I thought Dan was the last one. That's okay.
Then after Bill, we'll...
I am all for some form of this, doing away with it. I've recently been not involved, but know of people that have had complaints made against them that were just harassment. That's all it was. And there's just too much room for abuse in this thing. I've just made my first complaint ever, and Mr. Melvin right away gave me the option of it being anonymous. So that sort of shoots down the 50-50 thing. Probably a lot of those true complaints, the people would have put their name down and done it, but it's always been a custom in our county to give people the chance to be anonymous, and I don't think it's a good idea. And another form of abuse, and I'm not talking about James, I'm not talking about anybody on your staff, but how about if I'm, look, under my house, somebody's walking around down there or over at my farm or whatever, what are you doing here? Well, we got an anonymous complaint. It just gives your staff total freedom to go anywhere and do anything. I don't like that idea. I think that there does have to be a way, whether it's call your commissioner, if you're really, really afraid to put your name down, then call your commissioner and have them turn the complaint in through Mr. Edwards and right on down. But this is way too overused and abused, in my opinion. It needs to be changed, and the first thing on that form should be your name. And if you don't want to give your name, then there should be a procedure for going to the commission or whatever and doing it. But this is, like I said, it was way too abused by harassing people was what it amounts to, and our staff's got plenty to do without that. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Randy.
I want to tell you my personal experience, all right? Come on up, James. I had a complaint lodged against me by the election, to the Elections Commission with the state, because it said I made an anonymous election complaint against my opponent at the time. Of course, it was thrown out as being meaningless. But anyway, on that form, it said, when you put your name on this, this becomes a public record. And a copy was mailed to me of the complaint, along with their response to the complaint. And I think something maybe along those lines, if, for example, if you have to give your name and all the information Ralph's talking about. If it turns out it's a legit complaint, maybe you don't release it. If it turns out it's bogus, then you do release their name. So, Howard, in other words, it remains anonymous.
A public record is a public record. You can't do that.
We'd have to have a state law change to do that.
Really?
Yeah.
So, there's no way to say if there's a crack house next to them or if somebody's cooking meth next to them, can they keep that anonymous? They can report it to the well, yeah. They call 911. And
They can call Crime Stoppers and whatever.
I guess that shoots that down. Given the choice of not being able to protect somebody because of something, if it's a dangerous situation, I guess they could call 911. So I'm going to go along with you.
Well,
Never mind, James.
I guess we could not allow anonymous complaints unless it's a serious threat to public health, safety, and welfare, and then we may want to investigate it anyway.
We obviously, we're fiduciarily bound to check out that as what.
Okay, Commissioner Moore, you wanted to speak on
That
this?
was fine. If we can do that, if it's a serious risk to life, health, and welfare, then it can be anonymous. But if it's your neighbor's got trash in his yard, you need to give your name.
Basically, you know, what we're talking about here is sort of funny. We operate in this country under what's called the rule of law. And the rule of law says that you can face your accuser. And what we're trying to do here is to eliminate somebody from having to face his accuser. He's going to accuse you of doing this, but he can hide behind the bushes and not show up. So basically, I agree with Ralph. Now, I would like for Ralph to amend your motion with one thing, to put us commissioners in that same position.
We already are in it. Under our rules of conduct that I proposed back a year or two ago, we're not allowed to make anonymous complaints. We never have been. We haven't been for the last 2 or 3 years.
There was a commissioner who made a complaint about an individual and whatever. I won't say who it was, but the individual asked the commissioner, said, did you make this complaint? And he said, well, I'll probably have to check my records.
Well, anyway, in our non-interference policy, commissioners are not allowed to make anonymous complaints. And I think staff is well aware of that, too. Okay. Would you be willing to modify your motion that it can only be anonymous if it's a serious threat to health? Would you say
Serious threat to the public health, safety, or welfare?
Would you be willing to?
So what's going to be the definition of that? Someone says, I saw a dog, and I'm afraid of that dog, and that dog threatens my health.
Is there a clear way to
You know,
define
I
that?
mean,
I mean, it probably could, if we're gonna get into these kind of nuances, I think we should do it in your code, so we can
Well,
define the policy, frankly, I mean.
Well, then never mind.
I
Yeah,
think, well,
I
I
really
think
don't
one
think
way
it's
to
necessary.
one way to possibly do that is if it is an anonymous case and they say, okay, well, so and so is you know, if they say, well, so and so is got some trash out there that's got rats running out of it or whatever, we go and check it out and come to find out that's not true, then we back off of that.
Well, I
We
think-
don't do anything to that. But the problem is we have some fiduciary responsibility for life safety stuff, so we'll probably get that anyway. We have to pay
I guess
attention
what
to that.
James could do, if somebody calls and said somebody's cooking meth next door, he could say, call 911.
Exactly.
And you can remain anonymous. Or if somebody's got an open septic tank next door, he could say, call the
Call
health department. You
Well,
remain
and that's
anonymous.
what we currently do now.
Or he could pass it along, I guess. But I understand the concerns are that you don't want to, you know, you really do have a problem that's concerning you, and you don't want to put yourself at risk from retribution. I understand that, but
Well, and also keeps a lot of these cases that are coming forward is not necessarily, it's not as much about the issue as it is, a lot of times what we find out is neighbor to neighbor fights.
I just wait.
And they're trying to use us as the middleman.
No, I mean, it's good to talk about it. Everything we do, we believe in operating in the sunshine. Let's put it all out there. Let's full disclosure. I understand we're elected and citizens are not, but if full disclosure and put it in the sunshine is good, then it's good. And I don't see any problem with that. Like Mr. Cushman said, there is nothing stopping someone from saying, hey, so-and-so has got a sewer pipe going straight into the bay. Click. Well, you know, you just got an anonymous complaint whether your procedure allows you to do it or not. Whoever just took that complaint could ignore it, or they could say, hey, this is serious, or I just saw someone trying to burn a house down. Obviously, you can't just ignore that, right? But in a situation, whoever received that call is now, the burden is going to now be on them. Do I have proper, probable cause to go out there and inspect that property?
and that's up to James, really.
If James
Absolutely.
can go stand in the public vantage point and see a violation in from a public position, then maybe that gives him probable cause to go investigate that. If that thing's in the middle of 100 acres and it's fenced just because someone made a call does not give him probable cause to go in there.
Well, only, I guess we need to be clear about that too, because somebody could call up and say, so-and-so installed a portable shed in their backyard from Lowe's and didn't get a permit. I think it's if and they just hang up, click.
Right.
I guess if they call in something serious, maybe he can go check it out if it's anonymous, and we'll just have to leave that up to him.
Yeah.
Are you
understand what I'm saying?
Are you saying a portable shed is serious?
No, it's not serious at all.
Okay,
But
I wanted to clarify.
I wanted to be sure that,
Looking
to
at
clarify that just because he gets a complaint that comes in, if they don't give their name or whatever, you're not gonna go check them out.
And
if it's
basically
passed.
then, if he just in his own estimation figures that that's just a bogus deal, if that person is really dedicated to that complaint, they can come in and sign the form. They can come in and sign the form. They say, well, you never came out. Well, you know, come in. If it's that serious to you, come in and sign the form, and we'll look
I've
at
had a
it.
couple people tell me that I want to complain against somebody, but they said, but I don't want to go do it. You're my county commissioner, you go do it. I can't complain anonymous. Then I own that complaint.
I'm in favor of Ralph's motion as well on account of, you know, we've already seen that many of these code enforcement violations result in several $1,000s that someone in the end is having to pay. I think at the bare minimum they need to know who it is that initiated this complaint, whether it's neighbor to neighbor, but also I think if we take out the anonymous thing, we also take out the ability for one or two people to drive everywhere and just anonymously look out the window and file complaints. You know, the suggestion was made earlier in the meeting that we ought to go around to all of the foreclosed properties that bank owned and file something on each of those. You know, well, that if something is done anonymously, then that could happen. But I think that we need to know who it is that's filing a complaint, and if someone has a complaint filed against them, I think they have a basic right to know who it is that filed a complaint.
Mr. Chairman.
About the commissioners filing a complaint. Can we or can we not?
Not anonymous.
Not anonymously.
Very good.
Mhm.
That's it. We sign a complaint form just like everybody else.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's good enough.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may I
sir.
speak? I think we've been on this for a while now. So, I don't think anyone that lives in Wakulla County can think that intimidation does not weigh in when you're living next to a situation that you want to complain about. You might even be living next to somebody or know of something wrong that's going on, that your livelihood could be affected if you make that complaint with your name on it. We know now that our county doesn't go out and look for things. So there's no proactiveness out there. Now, the 50% of the complaints that come in that are anonymous, that are valid, we want to make it more risky for that person to stick their neck out and call in a complaint. So I think this is bad for our community. I think this encourages our community to start looking worse. Okay? And so I'm going to say for myself that any person out there that wants to make an anonymous complaint, that they can certainly call me, meet me at the spot, let me see with my own eyes if I think that they have a valid thing, and I'll make the complaint with my name on it. But I think we're doing the wrong thing here in discouraging people because we don't have a proactive thing. We've even have at least one commissioner tonight spoke that they don't want our staff, when they see something wrong, to report it. I mean, where do we go? I mean, what happens to our community? Just, and to me, it's, you know, there are reasons why you can make anonymous complaints. There's always people that are annoying, and that there are people that beat the system and use the system, but to take that system away that's used there to protect them, I think is wrong.
I think some function of what you just offered, Howard, will kind of resolve the issue. I think you may have just resolved it yourself.
Let them call him.
Hey, do we have any more? We have any more discussion? We have any more discussion on this item? We have a motion, a second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
The motion passes. Okay. I had an add-on item that I wanted to add on. This is a letter of support from Opportunity Florida. The county has signed these letters in the past for Opportunity Florida. This is basically it requests board approval of a letter of support for Opportunity Florida and seeking grant funding from the Department of Economic Opportunity.
So moved.
Okay.
Well, he can't make a motion.
I'll go ahead. And Opportunity Florida is a nonprofit organization. Is the regional economic development alliance focused on strengthening existing business for Wakulla County as well as Calhoun, Franklin, Gadsden, Gulf, Holmes, Jackson, Liberty, and Washington County. And this was strive to provide the connectivity, resources, and knowledge to leverage the funding and opportunities for business development for the counties it represents.
Second on that? I second. Okay.
I have a motion made and second. All who's present in favor?
All right.
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay.
Okay, we're going to move on to county attorney items.
Hold on a second, because we have one general business item.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that in my time.
Oh, you're going to do that under your time? Okay, I don't have any. We just have this add-on.
Did I skip an add-on general business item?
Yeah, but that's okay. That's
No,
okay.
no, you
I
didn't.
helped you skip it.
You didn't skip it.
All right, well, okay.
I was reading off, and
If we don't have any county attorney items, David,
yeah, we
just-
need to wait for Dr. Kessler to come back for this one,
Okay.
just to make sure we got a full board.
Just throw it up underneath yours.
Yeah.
He's right here.
Okay, this is under my items. This is the add-on item. I request board approval to waive the county persons policy for the emergency procurement for Allen's Excavation to complete the Surf Road and Bostic Pelt Road NRCS drainage improvement projects.
Second.
And authorize the chairman to execute the
I
contract.
second. Motion
Okay.
to approve, and then Gary seconded.
Also, I want to make sure that
Well, let David explain it, because
Yeah. And what this is, these are the projects that we have pulled the bond on the contractor, and it was not completed properly. Therefore, we're having to go into mitigate the damages and correct it. The bond company and insurance companies are working with us on this. Working with Preble Risch, our project engineer, we determined that Allen's Excavation had bid on the project. they have the expertise and the manpower to come in and take care of it at this point in time. Wanted to make sure also everybody understands I used to work for Allen's Excavation before I came on with the county. Had nothing to do with it, and they're working with Preble Rish on this together. So I just want to make sure to disclose that. So, but anyway, we need to have this as time sensitive to move forward, as we've got a 60-day window currently to have it completed, and it'll be very, very tight to get this completed. We'll have a bid or a cost back from Allen's Excavation that we'll have to send to the bond and insurance companies. They'll have to agree to those prices. They'll pay those. For Allen's Excavation. We'll have to pay them, but they'll reimburse us for it.
This was because of the low bid contractor.
This was
got
because
the
of
job,
the low bid.
failed to do the job.
That's right. Failed to do the job. So.
And there was nothing we could do about that. We had the discussion. We
That's right.
You know, this company was a properly vetted company, and we did what we were supposed to do.
Yep.
Okay.
This is just something you run into every once in a while. It's the first time in my career I've ever had to do that. So.
Your career has been very short.
It's been, well, having to pull the bond on somebody, that's as serious as it gets.
Just kidding.
Well, also I was in private business. We could hire on qualifications versus on low bid. We rarely pull the low bid guy. So anyway.
All right, we have a motion made and second. Any more discussion, commissioners? All in favor of the motion?
Aye. Okay, got a couple of things that I'd like to talk about. Is number one is we're having an issue, and it's showing up over at Mysterious Water Subdivision. It's road grading. Currently, we have a standard in the county that we grade roads on a, ditch to ditch. We grade them every month or whatever that cycle is.
It's supposed to be about the rocks.
Anyway, here's the problem: is we got at Mysterious Waters, we got one road. We got roads. This road we go down once every now and then. One road we don't touch. We got neighbors now, people moving in saying, wait just a minute, I want my road graded. The other guy saying, no, we've never graded it, so therefore y'all can't grade it. It's putting our staff in an impossible situation. We've worked with the HOA, that's not working. So what I want you guys to talk about is we got a standard for grading roads. It doesn't matter whether it's Mysterious Waters or whether it's wherever. If Mysterious Waters do not want our county road standards, then they need to take their roads back if they want to do that.
Are you talking about the rocks?
I'm talking. It doesn't matter. We got to be able to grade. We got to be able to properly grade our roads, no matter what one person thinks. We got to be able to grade it on a standard basis, because we're putting our staff in impossible situations, and we're making 4 people mad, making 1 person happy. 2 people, and it's crazy. It just doesn't make any sense. We either, if they want their roads graded a certain way, they need to take their roads back and buy them.
Is it platted?
It's platted, county right of way. We need to maintain
when
that
I say
right
the
of way.
rocks, the main road going in there, in the center of the road.
Anywhere.
Mysterious Waters.
Okay.
In the middle of the road are huge lime rocks. You remember? I don't know if you were around at the time, Howard. Remember? We wanted to clear the rocks out of the road.
And
so
we don't care about clearing rocks. It's just grading the daggum roads. Some people want them graded, some people don't. At the end of the day, we can't be picking and choosing who gets what standard. If they don't like the standard we got, they can buy the roads back and they can maintain their own roads.
My point was the standard is not to have rocks in the middle of the road.
That's right.
So if we're going to follow the standard, those lime rocks have to be
It's
removed.
the point of if they don't like it, they can buy the roads back and they can grade them themselves. But we got to have a standard that everybody in the county is, that we do the one thing in the county and that's it. Because we've worked with HOA, that's not working. So we've done everything we can. We need to put it all in one packet. Here's what it is. You don't like it, don't join, don't make your roads part of the county. If you like it, make it part of the county. That makes it real simple.
They're
and easy.
already county roads. They're
county roads, and we got to be able to take over. So we're going to be pushing forward with maintaining those roads as per county standards.
Which is what?
Which is, we'll have to
Put
talk
a
to
driving
Brent.
surface. We got to mill up all that grass or mix in all that grass.
We're going to mix in some grass. We're going to maintain it just like we do all the rest of the
You're going to
roads.
move the rocks. I'm telling you, that was
And,
big.
well, we may or may not move the rocks, but the main thing is the riding surface is what we're concerned
We've
with.
never seen so many people raise sand. We said we was
But at
gonna
the end of the day, if they don't like it,
They got 2 lanes, though. I mean,
yeah, they got 2 lanes.
Rocks
They
is
got
really
2
just
lanes, but we're
medium
going to
rock.
grade it. The thing is, if they don't like the way we're grading it, buy the road back.
Give it back to them.
We'll give it back to you. Take it. Y'all run with it. Don't ask us to do this for this road and that for that road, and that, 2 people are happy here, 2 people are mad there. That's not our job.
Most of those have a homeowner association.
This has a homeowner association.
That one does.
And we've been working with them, but it's splintered now, so therefore, some people want the roads graded, some people don't want the roads graded.
Take it back, they'd have to have...
Take it back. If you don't like the way we're doing it,
Yeah, but
take
whoa,
it
whoa,
back.
whoa, whoa. They'd have to have a majority vote.
That's right. If they want to vote to take it back, they can have it. So anyway, I just want to let y'all know we're pursuing that.
Telling us what you're doing, okay.
That's right.
Well, let's talk about the flip side of it.
All right.
And you correct me, but I've received a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, a few calls from Mr. Nettles, Leon Nettles, and he claims that we're not maintaining his section of road in South Choppy the way we maintain the rest. So
Right.
he actually wants us to widen that and maintain it to county road
Well,
standards.
but we're grading it on a regular basis. And all we're saying here is we don't mind the rocks being there. We're going to grade it on a regular basis.
Leon's is a little different, too.
Well, and I'm just
I
saying
know
that's
what you're saying.
that's the other side of that equation.
Right,
that-
that's the other side. But at the end of the day, what we're saying is the grading schedule right now is we're getting problems with people say, well, I want you to grade to this point.
Yeah.
Pick the grader blade up.
Pick your grader blade up and go a little bit and it's crazy because it can't matter. We don't care about the rocks. The rocks can stay there. And that's just like Mr. Nettles. It's narrow, and it's narrow for a reason there. And if we open that up, we open up a bigger can of worms.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Treat everybody the same.
but
Well,
my
just,
thing is
just
on a
like code
grading
enforcement,
basis-
let's make it consistent.
That's right, just make it consistent. We're going to grade your roads, period, in the store, and here's when we're going to grade them.
I don't,
There's narrow roads all over the place.
so, treating everyone the same doesn't mean we grade every road the same. I don't think.
No, the problem, Howard, if I could, the way I understand it, it's kind of like mosquito spraying. This guy wants to be sprayed and this guy doesn't, which is hard enough in itself, but this guy wants the road in front of his house graded, this guy doesn't want it graded. So the grader driver comes along, I guess he picks his blade up,
Yeah.
goes past this guy's house, put the blade back down, and that's just not a way to...
And then we
run
get
a
the
road.
guy on the other side saying, why didn't you finish grading the roads because this guy didn't want it in front of it, and it's
Yeah.
like, you got to be kidding me.
No,
Well,
I
they
agree
shouldn't-
with
they
something
shouldn't be
like that.
directing. If it's county road, they shouldn't
It's
be
a county
directing.
road, let's grade it, here's how we're going to grade it, period, in the store. If you don't like it, take the road back, go on.
And Howard, if you remember over there in, was it White Oak Drive, there's a few citizens at the end that didn't want the road paved.
And it's still unpaved.
They took it back, I think. They made it a private road, they took the right-of-way back themselves, and they're responsible for maintaining it. So it is possible to do that.
Yeah, so, and the county, when they, and I think we have the ability, and we are doing it, we come into narrow areas, we don't have to, widen it out like something else. Something's a landscape, something, as long as we grade it and make it passable. But the problem, I understand now from what you just explained, Commissioner Merritt, is that on the same road, we have this conflict going on. And that becomes an impossible situation for us to
That's
deal
right.
with. We have to at least do that road in one specific way. So what does staff recommend as far as...
That we maintain all these roads in the same manner. Now, if we've got one particular road that every citizen on there says, we only want you to come down here once a year, we can do that.
Mhm.
But we can't have it saying, with one saying, well, we want it once a year, we want it twice a year, we want it 3 times. That's impossible. We'll punt back to what our normal grading
You're not
schedule is.
necessarily going to clear the right-of-way from edge to
No,
edge.
we're
and
not
dig
saying
ditches.
doing that. That's right. And I understand what Commissioner Thomas was, he's exactly right.
Yeah.
The problem is, we have that all over the county. We got narrow right-of-ways, we got narrow, but we're not saying we want to go in clear. All we're saying, we want to maintain it.
All right, good enough.
All right, now, the next issue is Shell Point, update on the Shell Point land purchase. We met with, Sheree and I met with, and Heather met with FWC, and that process is ongoing. The funds will be available in the budget as of July 1. We have processes to go through. Probably at best we're going to do is close on the land probably the end of July, 1st of August, somewhere in that time frame at best. We got a couple of things to get through. And as I spoke to each one of y'all, in that, the funding that came through for the county, or came through the state, came through in 2 tiers. The first tier is a general fund, has $155,000, which is unrestricted, and that was set aside for the purchase of the land. The remainder of the $735,000 is in FWC. It'll be in all of it will be grant form, but it is a restricted fund as to what it can be used for, and it cannot be used for to purchase. So therefore, I'll be bringing back an agenda item on July 19th for you guys to approve us spending the $25,000 to go ahead and make that difference up between the 155 and the 175 we'll be paying for the land.
So we're going to have to spend $25,000 to have a boat ramp in Shell Point, is that what you're saying?
And we spend 25, and they'll give us 735.
About 740.
Well, whatever it is, I think it's
I'm only
735.
kidding you.
I think it's 735.
740.
So anyway, we've got that process worked out good. I gave you an update, Bostic Pelt and Surf Road. We've got Surf Road opened up to a degree. We're in negotiations with, we did the forensic engineering on it. We've set the scope of work. Alan's working with the Allen Excavation folks. We're trying to develop a price. We'll be working that through the bonding company and the insurance company, for a final resolution here soon.
Excuse me, what is the project that the forensic, and what is forensic?
Engineering after the fact of what happened, and so you have to and we have to say, here's what has to be fixed, but first you got a forensic engineer.
Okay.
Right, it's how bad was it screwed up, which it was screwed up its share of badness, if it makes any sense. The beautification project is completed at Oclocney Bay Bridge, and the state will be hopefully signing off on that this week. It looks good. The OBBT 3, Section 3 construction is scheduled to commence July 16th. So that'll be ongoing. And also, one of the things we're going to be bringing back to you guys and need your thoughts on and need to be thinking about is currently our Industrial Development Authority, our IDA, there's not much activity there at all with the committee. They haven't really done anything in the past. It's very difficult the way it was set up to put members on there. We're having difficult finding members, and then when we do find members, there's nothing to do, so therefore we're losing members on a regular basis. If this was a functional group, I would say, yeah, we need to keep it. We want to talk to you guys about considering disbanding this, dissolving it. It's been in since 1990, and I think the only thing they've done is the CSG bond help with that, and that was about it. So that's something we need to think about, either just dissolving it and or making the criteria of putting folks on it, making that a little better, because right now it's very restrictive as what we can have on there. Okay?
Why didn't we do the third corner at Oclocney Bridge?
What's that?
At the decorations we did out at Surf Road and 98 there. Why didn't we do the corner there in front of the old restaurant?
We did.
You did 2 corners or 3?
We did all 4 corners.
No, I don't think so.
I was out there Sunday, I'm pretty sure. I'll look at it. I may be wrong. I may have been 3.
There was a restaurant, the Oaks Restaurant.
Yeah, you know what? That's because of the reason we didn't. I'll look at that. There's a reason why we didn't do that, and you're right.
But that parking lot is on the right of way.
There is, if I'm not mistaken, I'll have to get back to you on that.
That's okay.
There's a reason. I got to get back to you on that.
Asphalt, right? It's all asphalt.
Anyway, that is also Scott Joyner is leaving, which we really will miss him, but we're in the process of working with Wilderness Coast, and they'll be helping us man while we're looking for someone. Also, they're helping us out with that. I'd like to request that you guys, I'd request a workshop for discussion of the fire MSBU for 3 o'clock, July 14th.
All right,
we have
let's get this
one
time
at
right,
4.
Jessica.
Make sure Jessica gets it right.
We got time.
3 o'clock.
We have a workshop at 4?
We have a workshop at 5. I want to make this at 3.
So you want 2 hours?
2 hours for the MSBU, yes.
That's a long time. That's okay.
All right. 4 o'clock. You talked me into it.
Yeah, that's good.
4 o'clock, and that way we can always continue. I think we can jam everything in.
Workshop at 4, one at 5.
Workshop at 5, meeting
4
at 6.
meeting at 6. Where am I going to get my cheeseburger, Jerry?
Round bag it. We'll order in.
All right.
So do we need to vote on that?
Yes, if you would.
It's not an agenda item. Does it need to be unanimous?
It needs to be unanimous.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we have that workshop at 4 o'clock.
I second.
It's not going to be unanimous.
Okay, I guess you can bring it back as an agenda item.
Yeah.
The board non-agenda item.
Right.
There's really nothing in your procedure.
Can we direct him to bring it back as an agenda item?
Well, then it puts it off another month, and I need to have this conversation.
I mean, if we can pass it without a majority, that's fine. Let's go ahead and vote on it. But Heather?
Well, I mean, what your procedure says is under discussion issues by commissioners, that no assignments or requests for agenda items shall be given to the county administrator or the county attorney without the express approval of the majority of the vote. The board shall take no policy action without an agenda item unless such is accomplished through unanimous vote. That's under commissioner agenda items.
Okay, I make my motion. We got a second. I guess let's just vote.
Okay, we got a motion and a second.
Citizens want to talk? I know it's...
No, that's my item, so.
But still, there's a motion on the floor.
Yeah, you're right, you're right.
Citizens have the right if they want to speak.
Do we do that without the card or whatever?
No.
May not be anybody want to speak, I don't know.
Well,
They're all asleep, I think.
There's nobody wants to speak. I'm gonna go ahead and move it to a vote.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor of the vote?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. So, I mean, we have 4-1, but did we have to have a 5-0 for it to pass?
She doesn't think so.
You don't think so? Okay, well, motion passes 4-1. Okay, is that all, David?
That's it.
I've got 3 citizens to be heard. Hugh Taylor. Is he gone? Mr. Vic Lambo. Followed by Chuck S.
Chuck.
Is Chuck gone too?
Yeah, I guess I'm the only one. Let me speak for myself. I think you need to get a assistant for Commissioner Kessler. He seems like he's taking all the complaints. 50% of the ones that are not valid, 50% of the ones that are valid. So he's going to be pretty busy. And I don't know how he's going to have time, but you do need to give him some support. I had a lot of things I wanted to say. I turned in 4 or 5 cards, and I guess they were all trashed because you didn't want to speak on any of the subjects I was on. But I am chair of the Wetlands Alliance, and let me say I will now be speaking for them. They came up earlier by someone, why did the county change some of the wording that's going on the ballot, the word? I think everyone should understand in the audience that the Wetlands Alliance and the Register of Voter, Buddy Wells, does not put the ordinance on it. You are the ones that put the ordinance on the ballot. Now, if you hadn't put it on it, and you know we had a lawyer there, we would have been suing you to make you do it because it was your duty to put it on. But you all changed the ordinance, and I think your attorney says that is the correct way for you to do it. You have the privilege, and I'm not arguing that you do it or do not, but I hope that you would, because there seems to be a lot of confusion on that. Why is it changed? If you could explain it to the people, that would help. But again, on the wetlands ordinance, you do not want to trust the people. Howard had that the abolishing of the ordinance wouldn't become valid until after the election, till you see if there was an ordinance or not. So why don't you trust the people? You want to make the decision before. Why? Why? We got people here that signed 30% of the petitions. 30% of the registered voters signed petitions that they wanted to vote on it. And yet you want to take action before. That tells me that you don't trust the people. Why don't you trust the people to make the proper decision? I'm sorry, I had a lot more to say, but I guess I will not say it.
Thank you, Mr.
Unless you
Lambert.
let me talk for another 10 minutes, please.
All right, that concludes our citizens to be heard. See, Commissioner Kessler, you have the first discussion item. We'll just start at that end and work this way.
What is it?
Bringing fairness to agenda items dealing with developers and citizens.
Oh, thank you. I forgot about that one. So, I think it was our last meeting, we had a developer come up, speak, sit down. We had neighbors that are impacted by that developer speak their 3 minutes, and then we had this developer come back and speak for however long we wanted him to allow him to speak. I think that's really unfair. Now, yes, he owns property that he's developing, but the neighbors own property that they're living in. That's their investment, and for most people, their home is their largest investment. So I think that if we're going to allow a developer to come up, like what happened at the last meeting, we should also allow the citizens to come up that are impacted and have their say as well. And I think we did those people wrong at the last meeting.
I think the distinction is, Howard, that Ben was the applicant, and the board can ask the applicant up to have questions. If those citizens that came, if they were the applicant for some zoning, I could ask them up and talk to their blue in the face if I had questions. I think
Yeah,
there's a
but
distinction.
so he's the applicant and he says things. They sit in their chair and say, that's not right. But they can't speak anymore because they had their 3 minutes.
It's being consistent with the
That's-
policy the
that's
board
the
has
policy
always
procedures
had.
that we
And
have
I
in place.
think that's an unfair policy to treat that developer or that applicant, giving him more time or her more time than the people that that developer is impacting. You know, Commissioner Moore, I'm sorry for mentioning his name, a commissioner at the last meeting also said, he lauded this developer, said what a wonderful developer he is, and he has sidewalks in all these areas that he, you know, did you go into the Flowers? Did you go into Songbird? I don't see, you know, sidewalks there. Maybe you're looking at different things. But when people say things that are wrong, absolutely wrong, okay, I think that the neighbors that are being impacted deserve the right to rebut, and I don't think there's any other way of making it fair. I don't think it should be a one-sided deal.
If I had a question for the developer, am I not allowed to ask because he's already spoke for 3 minutes? Or if he takes 5 minutes to answer, does that mean every citizen that came to speak on this rezoning item gets 5 extra minutes to speak?
The neighbor, I don't think every neighbor is going to come up there again and speak their piece.
You never know.
You never know. And if that's the case, we're here to represent the people. We're not here to represent the developer.
I understand
Or maybe
that.
you guys are, but I'm not.
No, Howard.
Okay?
We
Well,
have-
I'm just
we
saying,
have
I'm getting a little
procedure.
ticked.
We
Yeah, I
have
know
a-
it'll...
I'm going to answer this one.
Yeah.
Okay, and because with the email that you're referring to, the citizen, he sent an email to everyone, and I responded back to that citizen and very lengthy. But at the same thing, I want to respond to y'all that we have a procedure in place, we have a protocol in place, we're consistent. You know, and we've always in the past allowed whoever was the applicant, whether it be the owner or the agent, to have unlimited time to answer the questions of the board. But we've always done in the past that whenever we have citizens speak, the citizen is allowed 3 minutes to stay consistent. If we do back and forth, we're not gonna. I mean, we're gonna be here till 1 in the morning. But
Well, that's
the applicant, you know, should be allowed to have the time, unspecified amount of time, to answer the questions that the board has. You know, and I think the procedure we have in place is consistent. You know, I know someone might want to speak longer than 3 minutes, but okay, but if you allow them to go longer than 3 minutes, like Mr. Lambo just a few minutes ago, the buzzer went off in 3 minutes. He had other things he wanted to say, but we're staying consistent, and we need, whatever we do, we need to be consistent and do that every meeting.
I think this is a developer, especially maybe this developer, who has a track record in our county that is less than exemplary.
I disagree with you.
Well, you can disagree with me your own way. This is a person that gave his word that he was going to bring sewer up to his subdivision. And what happened? A school was built on the predicate that sewer was going to be brought up there. And you know what had to happen? The school board and the county had to step in and put up the money to finish that, to do the project, because that developer did not keep his word.
And every time he goes on that sewer, he pays a fee, just like any other developer.
I don't think we need to be talking about
Okay.
one individual person.
I agree with you, and I think there's a lot but I think it's unfair that we, especially when the neighbors are being impacted, that they do not have the right to rebut. Okay, so
I think the
we've
policy we
discussed
have
it
in
enough.
place is consistent, and I think we need to stay with our present policy. You know, and I think you've indicated, Commissioner Kessler, that the issue here is more about the person who was asking than the actual procedure.
It's about things being said that are inaccurate. So I'll go on to the next inaccurate thing. Are we finished with this?
Go ahead, Commissioner Kessler.
Okay. So next Andy Rooney moment is, you know, tonight, a person running for commissioner gets up and makes some statements that, I don't know, I guess he said he was a registered voter in September, signed a petition. Someone says he's not. I'll check into that. I'll come back to the board and let you know if he was registered in September or not. But I'm concerned from the county attorney if the text of what the people signed in their petition, if the text was changed. So the text of the ordinance was not changed. What will be voted on by the people on November 4th will be the exact thing that those people signed the petition for.
Yes.
The text of the ordinance was not changed. The ballot summary that describes the ordinance...
Not interested in the ballot summary. I'm not interested in the title. The people really vote on the text.
Yes.
Right. That text is unchanged. So in answer to Mr. Lambu, there was no change of the text. In answer to the other person saying that there was changes, they're not. Hard to believe that after turning in some, I don't know, close to 6,000 petitions to the elections office, that the elections office would not have one of those petitions. I will check on that, and I will bring it back to the board, whether there is a petition still in the supervisor of elections office. I can almost guarantee you there are thousands.
But he doesn't throw anything away.
I agree. I agree. And so, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'm gonna make it quick. I know we got budget talks coming up, and so this will come out, but I just wanted to, I've received quite a few calls lately about conditions that need to be improved at our rec park. And I think we're doing a great job with what we have, but we don't have enough to go around. And just wanted to just throw this out. We don't have to discuss it tonight if you guys don't want to. It's getting late. But I think that we need to have a conversation about the reallocation of the 1-cent sales tax and maybe slide some of those funds.
I totally agree with you. I've been beating that horse forever, and if it's, David knows that.
Yeah.
If it comes up this, are we talking about in this budget year that we can
reallocate it.
We can reallocate.
Yeah.
Why did
Calm down. Yeah,
we don't
you're
need a
right.
budget year to do that, right? We can do that
Yeah, I
anytime.
agree with you, Commissioner. We're shortchanging our kids.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have this also, which plays into the MSBU as well. So if we're going to reorganize, I want to reorganize all of it.
Remember, we can't use 1-cent sales tax for operations, only
Right.
for capital.
Right, and there's plenty of
We've got some
1-cent
ball
sales
fields
tax.
in bad shape,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's,
We're
I don't
good.
know if that'd be repair and maintenance, but anyway, that's a discussion for a different day.
Yep.
So I'm with you on that, yeah.
that's all I have.
I just want to reiterate again what it was said earlier about Scott Joyner and the good job he's done for our Wakulla County Library. And you know, of course, you know we're going to hate to see Scott go. And I just wanted to ask David, whenever this happens, do we give them a plaque or anything just indicating their service or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure that he was you know getting some.
No, we don't.
We should, but according to the
It depends.
back
They're
here, we
retiring
don't.
or something like that, retiring or...
Well, I'm sorry. We'll give Scott a plaque though or something because he has done a great
I
job.
mean, he's done a great job. I just was asking.
Yeah. He knows it. We tell him all the time.
That's all I got.
All I have to say is what a great place to live in Wakulla County.
Amen, Jerry. There was a statement made earlier in the meeting that, and I don't want to argue about this intersection again, but we could have used that money at 319 and 98 to do this intersection or that intersection. That's one of the first things David and I checked into to be sure that's not the case. That money that go into that intersection could not simply be moved to block some cutoff or this or that.
That's right.
Well,
Different pot of money.
What I don't understand about that, Commissioner Merritt, is that we heard today and we've heard before that money was accrued from different pots all around.
Other parts of the state, that's right.
So why couldn't it go to our first priority?
For safety upgrade projects, which that is going through as a safety upgrade project. The other ones are not, are intersection improvement, capacity upgrades. That's believe me, David can back me up on
That's
that.
right. We grilled them big time on that.
Big time on that. We want to, we'll support this. Well, I said, I don't have a problem with it. Let me take it back. I didn't say we'd support anything. I said, I don't have a problem with this as long as you're not pulling money from our priority intersections.
I remember you saying that. It was just hard to believe that that plan that they came up with is a safety plan.
Well, yeah.
And it's hard to believe that our other intersections, which have serious accidents, are not considered safety issues.
That's why I was concerned. That's all I got. Motion to adjourn. We're done.
Good.
Second.
Thank y'all.
Just for the record here.
I was 5 minutes off, but I called it though.
We're going to be closed on the way home.
That deal would fill this entire... Big round of one these days. Oh, yeah.
All right, Jerry.
I knew it was going to be that way.
Thank you.
You know you're in bad shape.
I appreciate it, sir.
I will do it.